The following pod, I had on an old friend named Yitz Klein, who I just wanted to have on because he's somebody we bumped into each other on Instagram, and he is doing all these wonderful things in the world, and he grew up down the block from me. And I thought we'd talk about the old neighborhood, and we did that somewhat. But what ended up happening is we had a very unbelievable conversation about psychedelics and the future of psychedelics and about topics of the world and getting lost in the sauce. This conversation was fantastic, and I want to have many more conversations with Yitz. I hope you enjoy it. Remember to like and subscribe. It is really helpful to get the word out there for all these great topics and great discussions. Love y'all. Hope you enjoy it.
1, 2, 3. Hello and welcome to the Brainstorm podcast. And now, your host, Sonny Perlman.
We're live. It's very professional.
This is a very professional studio.
Isn't that cool? What do you think about the Balgaiva stuff?
You know, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of professionalism. And the art's good, and the color scheme is great, and the font's good. I don't see it Balgaivish. If you want to do this seriously, you gotta be all in.
I like it.
And I was just talking to somebody about that yesterday. All in.
All in.
This is all in.
This is all in?
They also say that you need to
stuff.
get, how many podcasts have you had? What number is this?
Probably in the range of 60 or 70.
You're
maybe.
all in. You're all in.
This is like
It's
my
great.
hobby, but you're saying it should be my
Can't be a
all
hobby.
in.
This isn't a hobby.
Fine. It's not a hobby.
Meaning if this is becoming something as part of Jewish pop culture, you're all in. Because what I was going to say is you need to get to 21 podcasts. That's what they, whoever
Oh,
they
I'm
is.
past,
Yeah. You're triple.
Oh, yeah, I'm like way past. It's, you know what it is? Okay, first of all,
Yeah.
I'll do an intro afterwards.
It's
My
great to
old
be here.
neighbor,
Yes.
Yitz Klein.
Do we look at the camera?
it's Yitzchak.
We don't look at the camera.
Nah, you could. If you say something really dramatic, you'd be like, just
Right.
want you to know.
If you want,
Yeah, like you
I
get
want, right, because there's a camera. I mean, the people can't see this, but this is very.
They could see everything. Oh, they
very
can't see the back.
Very intimidating. So many cameras.
So cool.
But yeah, go ahead. Old neighbors.
No, old neighbors, let me tell you something about this. I loved comic books when I was a kid. I don't know if you could remember that, but I had comic books all over my house. Like, comic books were a big thing. And I always wanted to be a superhero. So this is very comic booky. As I told them, make it comic
Very, very, very smart.
Brainstorm. It's like, it looks like Flash or something. I was like, nobody really gets what I'm trying to go for there. But
It's
I made
very strong. It's very strong.
like a comic booky character.
You don't think people get that?
I don't know.
People get it.
They
It's
get
a comic booky vibe.
and it's got the little bubble.
Well, I have to say, part of my childhood was growing up in your house. So
I know.
we have to sort of expound on that before we talk about anything serious.
Yes. So do you remember comic books in my house? See, I'm taking you back, bro.
Not specifically, but I had Archies. We had a lot of Archie comic books in our house.
Yeah.
Those aren't comic books. You're talking about Spider-Man,
No, we had
Superman.
we had Archies too.
So then that would be all I would remember.
But it's not. We had them all. Although I refused to get into X-Men because of financial reasons. As a kid, there were too many.
There were too many.
I spent all my money on comic books. I get a little bit extra money. Comic books and Dipsy Doodles and Dipsy Doodles from the deli.
The Dowdy Deli. We'll look at the camera, the Dowdy Deli. And for those of you who are watching this that know what we're talking about.
Guys, I'm sorry about this podcast. It's going to be 100% inside stuff.
I don't know, but there are a lot of people who are on the inside that just have not sat down and spoken of the things we're going to speak about. I mean, there are enough people to enjoy the bits and pieces that are going to be like, what on earth are these guys talking about?
Right.
The Dowdy Deli is Kodesh HaKodashim as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Tell me what you remember about Dowdy Deli.
There are some things I can't say that I remember about the
I
Dowdy
know
Deli.
it. You can't say. I'm going to say it. I think it's that the magazines were covered with the black.
A little bit worse.
Worse.
But that was an epic. Everybody tried. I don't want to say everybody, but everybody tried to take a peek. Walking in and out. The lottery tickets. There was scratched off. There was a major lottery ticket following around the corner. There was a shooting there, and the guy died. I don't know if you remember that. Yes. So they had to put up very thick glass to cordon off the counter.
Oh, my God.
So it downgraded the Dowdy Deli experience after that. Like, it went from this hometown, wide open, 2 entrances, by the way. You could go in from the parking lot, or you could go in from Dowdy, right? So there was a double. That's, as a security concern, like, stores don't do that.
They don't do
but
that.
It was so hometown. Like, everybody was trusted. Hey, coffee, chips, Crunchers, right?
Crunchers.
You don't remember Crunchers. So
Well, I was Coffee Straw, so it might be Crunchers.
Crunchers is a spicy potato chip that was in a green bag.
What?
And it was a quarter.
They were all a quarter. I freaking
Crunchers,
love that.
New York deli style chips.
That's what you would get? That was
Those
your chip?
came after. No, my chip was the Cruncher.
Cruncher.
Big Cruncher.
I would get either Red Hots, the super hot potato chips, like Wise, I think, or Dipsy Doodles. Dipsy Doodles. And Dipsy Doodles have changed recipes.
I think
because they used to smell like socks.
The Dipsy Doodles smelled like socks?
I don't know if you remember that.
I don't think so. I liked the barbecue Dipsy Doodles very, very much.
I think, people think like the world is separated between like the right and the left. I think it's separated between the barbecue Dipsy Doodles and the regular Dipsy Doodles. Like, that's
great indicator for Klal Yisrael.
Yeah.
Is
like it's
whether
these chairs
you were
are terrible, right?
Whether you were no. We're gonna be sitting here for a while. I'm getting you got to get your positioning.
Okay.
This is a chair I've never sat in before.
This chair.
You don't just sit down on a chair and like know what you're doing, right? Shabbos meal chair, you don't have to really find your position. You're going to be there for like a fixed amount. We're going to be here for a while.
I love the.
I'm like trying to find.
Find
also,
a way.
My legs are not that long. I feel like this is a tall chair.
What I find?
Is that part of the Gaiva? Is that?
It could be the Gaiva thing.
You were like, get me tall chairs.
There's a story behind this chair. The story is someone dropped off these chairs at this house, and I was like, I could use that. That's the whole story. It was like someone was getting rid of their chair.
That's
but I have found a lot of people, especially the shamans that I have in here. They do they bundle up.
Well, I'm going to tell you a few things about shamans.
Talking about shamans.
If you want to just talk about shamans, I don't know. There's a lot of far Rockaway to unpack, but just talking about shamans, there is actually, and look it up, all in, there's going to be a Jamie here. Like,
yeah. I've had a Jamie at some points.
But there is a thing about how people choose to sit in social settings and what they do with their body. So the people who cross their legs under, have you seen that?
Yeah.
The guy shows up, you're sitting down at a little Friday night chill, and one guy's like folded up underneath him. Yeah. He's sitting on his feet. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you'll notice another guy will grab a pillow. The guy's holding a pillow.
Yeah.
That's the other guy. And then there's the other guy who's just so all of these different seating mannerisms, you can tell a lot about the person, about what's going on. Why are they choosing to sit like that? And the people who sit with the pretzel cross-legged underneath the Tochas program, they need to be noticed. They want to be noticed. They want to be in a key, unique position. They're showing that they don't really care, but all they care about is being heard there at some point in this social setting. So I'm always very aware at who's sitting.
You don't want to do that.
What's this? No, hang on. Whoa. Wait, Sonny, this is not about not wanting to do that. This is a natural tendency. If you know it when you're sitting in a room, you can look around and you sort of know your customers.
Does
that make sense?
Yeah. What about the pillow guy?
The pillow guy's comfort doesn't want to be there at all. Literally, just doesn't want to be there. They want to be the pillow. They want to just like nobody should notice them. They don't. They're just that's the pillow person.
Right.
They want to go into themselves. They're comforting themselves. Grab a pillow, holding the pillow on the lap, playing with the thing. It's very interesting.
Now I'm going to be very self-conscious. Damn it.
Well, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
This one?
Yeah, what this.
This is
Because
my
we're
go-to,
sitting,
I
we're
think.
sitting in the same. We're sitting in the same position here.
Yeah.
People who are comfortable with one another will slowly, naturally mimic. I don't know why we're going into this whole thing, but people who are comfortable with one another will mimic mannerisms. So, like, if we're having a good conversation, deal's going well, and you're sitting like that, I'll probably be sitting like this too.
Right, I'll go there.
So if you ever look at
that, I know about from the therapy I do.
Oh, interesting. So if you look in on meetings ever, and you see two people, you could know how the meeting is going.
Yeah.
It's great. These are great tools to know.
Well, I know that there are tricks that you could just, you could actually start doing the thing you want the other guy to do, like open up. And then the guy in the meeting will start opening up. They'll mimic you.
If it's going well.
Oh, I'm saying you can. That's part of making it go well sometimes.
I didn't
You can
think
actually
that.
do that, but
You're saying you're starting to subconsciously generate people's movements.
you can do it consciously.
You can do it consciously.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never tried that. That's like manipulating a situation.
Yeah.
You want honest situations. You don't want to have to manipulate. Things should just be smooth. Anyways, back to the chairs.
Okay.
A little high. They're a little high.
A little high.
They're a little
The
high.
chairs are going because somebody came in here who's a
But I'm
designer.
looking. Yeah. Okay.
And it's like, these are going. Those
They're
chairs
going.
are garbage. And they hated this table too. They're like, what are you living in, like some sort of funny
I'm sure a
fairyland?
designer would show up, no matter what you do here, and say
It's all garbage.
I think this is perfect.
They're like a psychiatrist.
I wouldn't.
You ever
change
send someone to
anything.
a psychiatrist and they didn't change the meds from the guy before? I don't know if you're
I
familiar
have
with
no experience with
At all.
psychiatrists
Oh.
or therapists outside the guise of psychedelics.
this. Really?
Zero. And it doesn't mean, I didn't need or don't need to go and sit with a therapist for a solid bunch of hours, but that's why I'm here today.
All right, let's go. Why are we here?
Because, yeah.
I'm a therapist.
I know. We have a few hours. So, yeah, my relationship with psychiatry and psychology and therapy is all within the context of psychedelics.
Meaning you've done some work with therapists in the context of psychedelics?
I've done no work with therapists in the context of psychedelics. After my initial introduction and entrance into the world of psychedelics, my relationship with therapists have become one of professionalism and working to massage them together. So educating therapists and psychologists and social workers about psychedelics and hopefully getting them to go on their own journeys with plant medicine and then leverage that new, fresh set of data and knowledge and put it into their therapy.
So let me ask you this. It's actually kind of like a backwards, we're going to get back to Far Rockaway, but backwards. Usually most people I find that have gone through the psychedelic journey as like a healing journey
We're going deep right away.
started
okay?
with therapy. You know what I'm saying? Like they tried therapy, they tried this, they went to rehab, they did all the things. And then someone said, hey, dude, why don't you try that guy in Williamsburg? You know what I'm saying? Like, take a chill. bro.
Good. The guy in Williamsburg,
Or go to
or
Mexico.
whomever.
Costa Rica. Or
But
Israel.
Florida, New York. So my introduction was from a good friend of mine who was a lawyer.
Right.
So he's a lawyer. He's also a Talmud Chacham.
Okay.
And we could talk about what Talmud Chacham means today, but he's a Talmud Chacham. And he
Could
was...
I tangent and ask you what a Talmud Chacham means?
Yeah,
Like
he's
the-
somebody that's always learning.
Mhm.
That's literally what it means. A Talmud Chacham. They're always learning from people wiser than them. They're always studying. You'll never find them not studying. If you stop learning Torah, you're no longer a Talmud Chacham. That's something I realized. Like I have some friends who were massive Torah learners in their younger years, but then they got to their 30s, got busy with business, maybe became a little bit secular, but they were still able to like quote a Rav Chaim,
Right.
a Tosfos, a Chumash pasuk that you've never even read,
Right.
and they're saying it like, and they're not a Talmud Chacham though, because they're not learning anymore. And the minute you stop learning, you're no longer a Talmud Chacham.
In the word is student.
That's it.
Talmud is a student, isn't it?
Yeah. The student of the wise
Low
one.
made to learn.
Talmud Chacham. So if you're not learning, you're out. You're not a Talmud Chacham
Right.
anymore in my personal book. My friend
I
was
find
a
that
Talmud
very
Chacham.
cool because in most places the professor is considered like the highest. We say the student is the highest.
Right.
Never thought about it that
I never
way, but
thought about
really
it that way.
freaking love that. We say that Talmud Chacham is someone who
He's always learning.
is a learning wise man or learning from a wise man or something. Isn't that what it means?
Yeah.
So the student is actually
There
the
you go.
highest level you could get.
Right.
That's a psychedelic thing.
This is trippy. This is trippy.
It's trippy.
Um,
Trippy. Trippy.vc.
.vc.
Okay, we'll
What a
get into-
smile.
we'll get that.
No, don't cut anything out. Everything. If you're a proper podcast,
Yeah, I never cut it.
we cut nothing. Unless it's against halacha or it's saying something that's super inappropriate that people don't need to hear with a yarmulke on their head.
Right.
They cut it out. But other than that, by the way, this is more, we have to really get a handle on, because I really want to learn from you. Like, you're running sober houses, and this is not my podcast, so I don't
Yeah.
want to turn it into me, because I'm really good at asking
Turn
questions.
into you.
You're running sober houses. What's your relationship with psychedelics?
So I'm one of the OGs a little bit, believe it or not.
I did not know that, but I can
But
imagine
I was
this.
secretly an OG. Not OG like Rabbi Harry. Rabbi Harry beat me. But I think the first time I had an experience with psychedelics also came as it was probably 12, 13 years ago, something like that. So for in the Jewish
You're
world,
early, very, very early.
that's early.
It was under the context of like a fish concert, or you
No,
were
no,
searching?
no. I don't
Properly,
even-
done properly.
I will say I don't know if it was done properly. I like ready living a perfectly fine life. It wasn't like I was even really searching. It was more curiosity than anything else. Meaning good friend of mine was a shaman, and a very good friend of mine. And for years I was debating the topic of this with him. This is before the Jews got excited about it. So we would just talk about it. It wasn't like a full debate. It was like Talmud Chacham. We were learning from each other, but there was a lot of, I was definitely questioning, like, if this is like something that like should be pursued in this world. And he was pushing it in some ways. He's not a pusher, but, and then for years he told me, you got to just do it and you'll experience it. And then you'll have a different view, or like you'll be able to have a more educated view. And then,
Right.
and I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. And then one Thursday night, he called me up and said, Saturday night, I'm doing a ceremony, and it's private because there's only 2 people that paid for it, and they agreed that you could come because you're like my teacher, so you could come. Like that's so. I just showed up. There was no intention. So
Which is not a good thing with psychedelics, but
right. So that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. I didn't necessarily do it right, but I showed up
right.
having no idea, nothing, and it was life altering in some ways. I mean, the best way to describe it that I took I've described it a bunch of ways, but the best way I was to describe it was like a traumatic event doesn't necessarily change your life that day, but it changes the trajectory that like in 10 years, you're just a totally different person in a bad way, like trauma. This was like a good trauma. Like it basically.
Yeah, I didn't know where you were going with that.
No, so I don't think that trauma changes you the day of the trauma. But the shame, I'm talking about bad trauma, like the shame and the stuff that you're going through, it grows and grows and grows until 10 years later, you're like, oh my God, my life is terrible. And I could go back to that trauma and realize it kind of started there. This was that experience. Like it like shifted me in a positive way, which it didn't like alter my life that day, but it gave me a direction and a very clear homework of what I need to do and head in that direction. And And even today, if I hear something that's like opposite of that, this is many years later, and I've done it since then, but it just seems wrong to me. Like I don't go that way. Like that doesn't make any sense. And my body's like headed back towards the bad, and then it doesn't want to go there. It's like that doesn't.
I don't know what the context is of that.
But I'm saying is like it's almost like a positive.
Tissue, so we're gonna have to cut it.
Like a pot. You don't have to cut anything out. It's like a positive. You want a drink? Have a drink. Take a drink. Here.
Okay. So I'm fascinated that you had this experience so many years ago, because this means that experience is, quite frankly, what's brought this together. This is not because
I think so.
Yeah, this is not because of Instagram or being friends from 30 years ago. This has to do with psychedelics. That's why we're here today.
Probably.
I didn't know this. Well, from my life, it is. Meaning, in my eyes, looking and hearing this is the first time I'm hearing this.
Right. Oh, you know
the whole trajectory.
Yeah, very interesting. I've very interesting stuff with psychedelics.
I had no idea.
There's more. Oh, okay. I got into a lot of trouble because of psychedelics. My organization does not want me to talk about it.
Then it's a better thing.
My podcast,
I don't want you to get in trouble.
No. I still talk about it.
Okay.
But it's I don't know if you remember me from Far Rockaway. I'm not that good at following rules.
There were 0 rules Sonny Perlman followed ever.
Nobody knows me from back then.
Oh, okay. So Sonny was. Do you mind?
Sonny was. I was the big guy.
Yeah, Sonny was the epitome of the first intellectually challenged Orthodox Jew that decided to actually go and try it all. And as a matter of fact, as a child, my last childhood memory, together with you, I had to walk home from your house, and your mother, did not.
Allah
Shalom did not allow me to walk home alone, and she's like, "Sonny, you're walking him home."
Really?
And we started walking together, and then out of nowhere, we were getting towards, like, where Gasworth used to live, and Rodkin, and you're like, "You want to see me do some flips, like in the middle of the street right now?" And I was like, yeah. And you did these hand flips down the street, like 5 in a row. And I'm just walking home, and you're flipping over on it. That was like my last kid memory. Wow. But as a mid-adult, it was a function of, Sonny's just Sonnying around the world. Did you write a book?
No. Yeah? No.
But you have stories...
or crazy stories. I'm in the middle of writing a book, which I've changed twice and decided to turn it into a children's book. So now it's got more confusing. It's a book about addiction as a children's book.
This would be like an early preventative book. So what's the purpose? For adults to read a book. That's a child's book?
My theory is that addiction is a developmental disorder, which means you're just stuck at a childhood stage emotionally. So children are amazing that they believe in magic. They believe that the world could be good. They believe but they don't know how to handle like really, really tough emotions. Like life just bowls them over, and it's because they're shocked. Like, why is these bad things happening?
You don't think the road you're suggesting is a weak one?
What do you mean weak?
I hear what you're saying. I think I hear what you're saying. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to ask.
It is weak.
Sounds weak.
Dude, being an addict is weak. I don't mean to say it that way, but you're not able to control who you are as a person. You're talking about fully grown adults who have a mind of their own and are brilliant and know how to live life. There's not an addict out there that's like, I would like to live my life smoking crack on Skid Row. And there's a weakness, but you don't know where it comes from. I don't have a problem with the weakness. I just know that there's a solution.
Okay, good.
What I'm
this
saying
is not an apologist like, hey, addicts are just... we're all weak. Everybody has some sense of addiction, right? So,
and I also believe addiction's a spectrum. Meaning, like, everybody in the world's on the spectrum of addiction. The ones that really need treatment are like on the deep other end of the spectrum. Meaning, like, everybody somewhere, like, their self-esteem is struggling. That's what's going on. So
Everybody's self-esteem is struggling, always, all of the time.
right. So
I think-
addiction
yeah.
is you're taking an external self-esteem, something on the outside that's going to make my inside feel better, and we're putting it inside us. The stronger we get in life, the less we have to put in from the outside because it comes from the inside. So that's, I try to make it like very simple. Obviously, everything's complicated, but the reason I want it to be a children's book is because I think the best way to learn something is simple. Comic books taught me more than most things in the world.
Right.
The genius of a comic book is like you have one frame that says one thing, and the next frame you're like further along.
Very compartmentalized.
But we got to use our
information.
brain to figure out what happened in the middle of those two frames. You're like part of the action of the story. It doesn't tell you everything. Like in this story, Betty is, with
Betty and Veronica.
Right.
Archie. What was the guy? Moose.
right.
There was that other guy,
Reggie.
Reggie.
Well, Jughead's the best. How do you miss Jughead?
Oh, Jughead. That's where my love for hamburgers come from.
Yeah. Jughead, when I realized that Jughead was
What's
just
the
another
Chiddush
name,
of Jughead? What
he's
was
just another
his-
name for pothead.
He's a pot. Right.
Dude,
right,
he
right,
just
very
ate
good.
all day. He didn't like girls.
Very good.
He would love to sit around lying around.
Would eat 12 to 15 hamburgers a
Yeah.
stack.
Who else does that and stays skinny? Potheads.
You know, it's very funny because I had the opportunity in the past 15 years, for some interesting work reason, I ended up in Archie comic book headquarters
No way.
with the family who owned Archie comic books. And I got to see them. It was like, I was already an adult. I didn't read Archie comics any longer, but being there was very nostalgic. And when you walked into the offices, they had the back of that red car, that broken down car that Archie would drive around. So they had like the rear of it set up as a bench. And I went and I got to see them. And these people are like drawing storylines, serious work. This is not, they're thinking of it seems silly.
It but
But there's some chachma,
I
they're
learned
doing
so much.
something
I'm
there.
old
They're
day.
like, they're thinking up these storylines. They're writing them out. There's artistry to it. Everything was drawn by hand. There was no AI. There was no nothing. The colors, like there were people doing this work for years and years and years. Then they went bankrupt. I don't even know. Are they still around? Archie
I don't
Comics?
know. But can
Anyways,
I tell you something?
Yeah. Long story
Ju-
short,
ju-
comics.
Comics. We're going to get on more, but most fascinating thing I've ever found about Archie comics, I found out later on in life. Someone said it to me, and I was like, no way in hell is that true. And this is it. Betty and Veronica have the exact same face, and the only difference is their hair. And I went through 50 comics to find it, and there's a muscle in there that's like blowing my free. I don't know what the name show is. It's totally true. Drawn exactly the same. She just wore better clothes and had like that black shiny hair, and you're like, she was Veronica and she was Betty. And she had the ponytail, like so she was like tomboyish.
But there's a vart there.
There's a vart.
There's a vart.
There's a vert. I'm not exactly sure.
I mean, we're onto something.
Yeah.
There's a vart, perhaps in comic books, specifically Archie, that has lessons to be learned in your life. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, 100%. Well, the fascinating thing, the Archie thing, is that he was in love with both of them. And they were fighting
That
for
was
him.
his constant struggle.
And he was always double booking. And I think this was like an internal struggle of like
It's a hurry, it's a type.
yeah, like there's like different parts.
Good
that
versus
are
everybody's
trying-
rooting for Betty, and there's those nasty kids rooting for Veronica. You
Yeah.
knew how they're going to turn out.
And
They're the
Veronica-
a-holes today.
right?
Yeah.
And Betty was completely loyal to Archie. She never veered off. She liked Archie. Veronica liked Reggie. Veronica was the dangerous side.
And Reggie was portrayed as like devilish at times.
Yeah,
Reggie
was a bad guy.
Reggie was a bad guy. Reggie was not a good guy. He always showed up with the flashy Lotus. He had a sports car. He would,
Right.
finally Archie gets his car fixed, and Reggie's like, bro, really, bro.
That car was called Betsy.
Betsy, I don't remember.
Shoot, it was called Jalopy. I think it
Jalopy?
called it Betsy.
A red
It was a
jalopy.
jalopy. It was a red
A
jalopy.
real jalopy, right?
And
They would call it the jalopy.
but I'm telling you, this battle, you could even go back to the addiction thing. Like everything was perfect with the Betty thing. Like Betty was it. She'll fix your car. She'll make you
Veronica's
food.
the addict in Archie.
Yeah, so Veronica's like, and Veronica wasn't even loyal to him. She would like lead him on and then go for another guy and like, you know.
But that perhaps is also the struggle of Veronica. Like she really wanted to be Betty. Right. She wanted to be able to be the good, wholesome. She was jealous.
Yeah, yeah.
The Vart is the rich, jealous of the happy. The rich is jealous of the happy. And what makes you happy? The jalopy, the dedicated husband, the dedicated wife. They wanted to have kids, I think, at points. Like, there were storylines. And then you have the Schwer, the father-in-law. I don't remember his name. Yeah. Veronica's dad.
Mr. Lodge.
Nasty guy, Mr. Lodge. That name,
Did
Lodge.
he have a name? Lodge.
Lodge. I can't believe you remember it.
I remember everyone. And Betty Cooper, Archie Andrews. If you know it, it's...
Jughead. Did he have a last name?
Of course
did he have a name?
Of course he did. Jones. Jughead Jones.
Jughead Jones.
But you know it goes A.A. Archie Andrews, Jughead Jones, Veronica Lodge is via, I don't know that one, but Betty Cooper is B.C. Like they were simple names. Interesting.
Very interesting thing that we are uncovering here.
Yes.
We can do.
But can I ask you a question?
Podcast just on this.
You know, this is what we're doing. But do you know? You know a lot of wealthy people. You're in the business world, correct?
Interestingly enough, yes.
So I'm saying is, do you find that to be true? That the rich are jealous of the happy?
Oh man, wealth is like, well, I grew up in Far Rockaway. Mm-hmm. You grew up in Far Rockaway. And I don't want to say names because it could fall into like a Lashon Hara type of category if you're insinuating things, but not in our case. There were generally like one or two very wealthy families in the neighborhood. That was really it.
Very few.
Very few. But I mean really wealthy families in the neighborhood.
The truth is they may not have been really wealthy, but to us they were.
I'm talking about the really wealthy families in the neighborhood.
Yeah, okay.
There was like one or two of them.
No, there was more.
Not with extreme wealth.
Okay, fine.
Extreme wealth is like a semi-new thing to our generation.
This is true.
Okay, when I was growing up, you didn't know 10 fathers that were worth $100 million and up. They weren't there. They were, you could count them.
Exist. Yeah.
That's my point. But there was always one. There was one. Okay, there was one. The way they went about wealth when I was growing up as a kid was manageable, right? They were a lot more honest about struggles, kids, life. We're living in a time and place now where people are so full of it in a sense, and the rich, give them money, they can be even more full of it. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The very wealthy back when we were chilling did not fly private jets around. No such thing.
They did have a Cadillac. That's how we knew.
Size the man. They not only had a Cadillac, but we crashed that Cadillac. Not me, thank God. But that Cadillac was wrecked. But exactly, there weren't 4 cars in the driveway and 2 drivers.
Right.
There wasn't
driver.
Right. There wasn't a driver.
No.
So when you ask, like, how do I find wealthy people today? It's just a very different wealth. Unfortunately, the wealthy today have got caught up in between, on their way to being HaKadosh Baruch Hu, fiery Jews. They got caught up in like outdoing themselves almost, and that's not happiness. It can't be. Are they jealous of, who on earth is jealous of a poor person? Being poor is the worst, right? Who wants to be poor?
Yeah.
Like nothing,
I want to drink.
Now, if you want to talk about wealthy versus not wealthy,
so you didn't answer the question.
Happy is has nothing to do with wealth. Zero.
I know, but you said an interesting statement. I'm trying to.
Which is that
the wealthy are jealous of the happy.
Absolutely, all day long. I witness it, unfortunately, more times than I wish, because it's so silly. Because if somebody does have a lot of capital is a tool. Right. You can make yourself so happy doing proper things, proper investments, purposeful living. But sometimes people get, I don't want to say jealous. They They see people who perhaps don't have as much and are living a more simple life, and they just can't believe that. Like, they look down on those people. They they'll create their own wealthy cliques, and it's like those other people. You're like, what? What are you talking about? Wealth is meaningless in the sense that if you're not happy and you're wealthy, you are jealous of the happy-go-lucky guy, and you can't relate. They can't relate to him. One of the things about Orthodox Judaism is that it used to be back in the shtetl days, the shoemakers davened together.
Right.
And the podcasters, they davened together. And the roofers davened together. And the Puritz crew, the Puritz crew, they went around and they're really nice wagons collecting everybody's rent for the guy, I forget what they would call him, but they were the Puritz guys. Those guys davened together. There wasn't this like total mix-up of wealth class in the social setting.
Right.
Didn't happen. In shuls today, we have everybody's mixed together.
But it only happens in Orthodox Judaism.
Outside
That's the only
of
place.
where
In the
everybody
secular
socializes.
world-
No, nobody socializes like us.
I know several billionaires in my life. That doesn't make any sense.
You're an Orthodox Jew.
Because I'm an Orthodox
It doesn't
Jew.
make sense. I grew up in Far Rockaway, son of a rabbi.
Right.
I don't know how I know so many billionaires.
How do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I really don't
It can
understand.
only happen this way
in the Orthodox,
world.
But what's
And they go to
interesting
the
is
same schools.
right, but the Orthodox world, it wasn't always like that. People didn't pray together who were in different wealth classes. So there wasn't like you weren't looking at the next guy who rolled in and looked super happy, and now a guy who doesn't have that feels like, ooh, I need to be super happy. And then the wealthy guy didn't walk in and see another guy who was super happy but has nothing. They saw that only in the Rebbe or the Rav.
Right.
Everybody saw that. But they hung out with their own peeps. There wasn't like so much of a crossover. I find that happening now again. And I think it's a good thing. Yeah,
I think it's a good thing. Could I say I have a little theory of
Sure.
what screwed up? See, I got a big problem with the schools. We're paying like crazy tuition. The poor people are struggling like crazy. And every wealthy person I ask about it, they're like, just spend less money. And I try to explain that you don't want to traumatize your kids. I mean, when we went to school as kids, I don't know what your family was like, but we had hand-me-downs. We had, there was one rich cousin who we got all his clothes, and all our clothes said somebody else's name on the back, and that's how we lived. And it was fine because there was only 3 or 4 kids in the class who were even paying full tuition.
Right.
And we knew that because they had straight teeth.
But you're going back, right? You're going back to Siach Yitzchak.
No, I'm going Darche even.
Darche,
I'll tell you why.
Darche was so disparate in at that time. I don't know what year this is.
I think it still is the same percentage of people are wealthy. The only thing is, this is my belief. What screwed us all up is leasing, car leasing. This is my belief. Because
Car leasing screwed everybody.
everybody.
Because,
And I'll tell you why. It mixed us because when we were kids, everybody drove up in a crappy car. That's what we had. And then a
Almost
couple kids in the
everybody,
car, a couple kids in the class, they had a nice car. And we knew they're the wealthy kids. And everybody else was not the wealthy kids, and that was fine. Then car leasing came out, everybody had a nice car. So now, you can have a nice car, but your kid walks out with the pants a little too short. It doesn't work. So then the nice cars, now you don't know who's rich, who's poor. It was very helpful for us to know who was the rich guy and who was the poor guy.
There's a big correlation between us and growing up in Far Rockaway, right, down the block from one another, not having too much money, right, and therefore, because I've psychoanalyzed myself, right, therefore questioning the hierarchy of how this all works. Why are people, like what's going on with wealth? Psychedelics for me have totally removed my obsessions with like wealth and like totally. I still work for a living because I have children and I need to make money.
Right.
I still like what I do, but my concern with wealth has taken a big deep dive. I'm much more worried and concerned about really people's mental health and wellness as it relates to raising their kids properly so that everybody's safe around money. And right now, especially the Orthodox Jewish world, we are not safe. I mean, you see what's happening in the news? Have you seen what happened this week?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Bro.
Which one are you talking about?
Let's put it like this. Because we're jumping around a lot.
Yeah, it's all right.
So,
you think it's bad?
So no, not at all. I just want to focus on a topic and like understand that it's an important one. The way I think capital is not safe right now in the Orthodox Jewish community is if you see what's been happening in the real estate world over the past few months. This week, a guy passed away.
Yeah.
Very young man.
Yeah.
And then lawsuits are being filed. These are all Orthodox Jewish people with families and kids. So you're dialing it all the way back to car leasing, but look where it's landed us.
Yeah.
Right? So personally, I was very obsessed with wealth. You know, I worked for billionaires. I mean, like brothers. Like I did a lot of work in certain communities with super high net worth people. And I can tell you that very, very, very generous, very, very caring and kind, unbelievable people. And multiples of them, meaning in 15 years, Baruch Hashem, I've gotten to be around. And in the Orthodox world, it's like, it's the most, in a sense, messed up. Wow. Because religion is not supposed to have a connotation of capital attached to it. It's not really supposed to. It does. But, you know, when you always go to these dinners, it's changing now, but they're always honoring the guy, the mega wealthy guy. I was obsessed with these ideas. Like, why? Thinking about it. Through psychedelics, I'm more concerned about how do we move away from that? It's not healthy, but so many people are busy talking about what's not healthy. I like talking about this, like, what are we doing? What's the solution? In other words, what's his name has a good speak about this, Ben Shapiro and these kinds of guys. They're always like, racism, you know, Elon Musk, he's the big guy who says this. Hey, why are we talking about racism? Why do we keep talking about this? It makes it real. If we stop honoring the super wealthy people and we stop everybody putting their names on the buildings, it'll die down where the attention goes to the holy people, the people who are impacting the community the most, not with dollars, right?
Right.
The people who are impacting the community with their actions. We need to raise them up, put them on the rabbeim, the teachers, the guy who you know, you open. It's great. You open the Ami magazine and you'll see Mr. Stinkowitz owns 150 customers, big businessman.
Right.
You ever see these write-ups?
Yeah.
I get it. You know, it's good for networking. It's good for communications. It's good advertising. But like, what about the 9-to-5 father who's sitting there and making a living, paying his bills, a little 401k, you know, like put him on the cover. The guy who's 5 a.m. goes to learn for 4 hours and goes to work literally from 9 to 5 and then shuts off his phone. And then he's with his kids for an hour and a half. Then he goes back to shul. That guy needs to get an award. No, he's not getting driven around in a chauffeured Maybach or whatever. You know, you ever see that in like the Orthodox communities? Cars sitting outside with drivers.
Right.
This is nuts. What on earth is going on? Where did you get these ideas to do this?
But I think with the psychedelics, and psychedelics affected me this way. I was never obsessed with wealth, but I was obsessed.
You are obsessed with it. The way you talk about these issues.
I'm fascinated by it, but I was never obsessed with it. I'll tell you why I'm obsessed by it. What I was always obsessed with is, and my wife, who is way healthier than me, thank the good Lord, for years has been like, telling me like, hey, settle down there. I was obsessed, and it had something to do with my family and everything, but I was obsessed with changing the world. Meaning obsessed, like your identity comes from the impact you make on the world. And it seemed like
it's a trauma.
it's
a childhood
from
trauma. Yeah.
But the obsession was like, are you worthy as a person if you don't make the world a better place? And that is what I was obsessed with. What psychedelics told me that first time was you lost yourself. Meaning you're
by doing that.
By doing that. And by the way, it's similar to comedy. I'm in love with comedians, and one of the reasons is that it might be their defense mechanism to be funny. Like in their life, they figured out that funny makes them. A lot of them will talk about just people gave me attention when I was funny. So a lot of them were feeling lonely, feeling like all of them. If you go back, it's not always true, but a lot of it's a defense mechanism. And the thing is, it's a defense mechanism that the world freaking loves. So if you have a defense mechanism of sucking your thumb in public, then everybody's like, hey, stop it. That's not good. Or other ones. I'm just picking a stupid one, which is not even defense mechanism.
Are you tracing this back to wealth and behavior?
Yeah. So what I'm saying, so in the same way, wealth could have been another thing that I could have picked up here. But I was using changing the world as my obsession for wealth. Like if you would offer me money, it would do nothing for me. If you offer me, I'm going to change the world,
that's everything.
I'll work 24 hours a day. I'll figure it out. I was obsessed. And there's a reason why I ended up actually making massive impacts in the world is because like billionaires who spend their time all the time working hard to make as much money as they can, I was doing that in a different arena. And money meant nothing to me. I mean, I never even thought about money. It was not even a thought. The only way I thought about money is like, I have to pay the bills. And even then, like, I don't have a nice house. I have a nice house, but I don't have, nothing I own is fancy. I own the most, like, if my house burnt down, the only thing I would miss is my books. That's it. I have nothing in there. It's not even a nice computer in there. There's nothing in there.
You have a laptop.
I don't have a laptop. My wife has a laptop.
These ideas are, you're probably a minimalist.
I am.
I'm personally a big minimalist. I believe in it for everybody. I literally
every couple
tell
of months
anybody.
I throw everything out.
Well, I don't throw everything out.
That's what I do.
That's interesting. I just don't acquire anything new.
Right.
So like I really don't buy anything almost new.
Okay.
My wife, she'll buy a polo. You're wearing a polo shirt for like same thing. I just like just very minimal because I watched a documentary called The Minimalist.
Oh, I love that.
Great documentary. Everybody should watch it. It's so insightful. And I watched it right when I was actually starting to make a couple of bucks and entering into that world of like high net worth people. Mm-hmm. And it confused me, right? Because I liked what I saw, but like, my soul was like going a different direction, to acquire wealth and work. I wanted to be around that so badly. Really, it's interesting that you were not obsessed with it because I grew up in Far Rockaway. We went to schools. There were a couple of wealthy kids in school.
Right.
They got treated very differently than me.
Sure.
Right? Walking into the school, you saw exactly which family's name was on the building. You're a little impressionable whippersnapper. You're going to be like, hey, I think I need to get my name on the building.
Right.
That kid was the worst kid in the class, and nothing happened to him. Yeah. Like they just honored his sibling or parent or whatever. So to me, I was like, I need to get there. That's power. Right. And if you're powerful, you can do a lot of good things. You can do great things. Growing up in the Orthodox Jewish community, we're trained to want to do great things. Right. Everybody is. That's what we're taught. But when you start sprinkling in like importance of wealth, it's an extremely confusing topic. And I think it's now gotten to a point where it's a big, big problem. Now, the economy can correct that in a second, right? 3 different industries take hits, and there's a big wake-up call. But I actually think we're beyond the point of a wake-up call in the economy. I'm going to land the plane on this because some other industries are popping up that are making so much money, the same loop is happening. So you have, and it's a conundrum because how on earth do you run an institution without wealthy people making very large donations?
That's right.
And then so the solution is to change the temperament of those people. And then there's a Churchill saying, it's a great saying.
Yeah.
He said that the character of the nation is taken from the head. Okay? And we could dive deep on this. The character of the nation is taken from the head. Management is like a top-down thing. Usually, if there's like some rot in a system, go check out who's managing the whole program. They have to be changed. Right? Because a few layers away from them, those people are not doing the right thing. So the character of the nation is taken from the head, said Churchill. If you look at what's going on in our communities tied into those things like related to wealth, there's a problem at the head. And the head of our communities, they don't really speak up enough, but for real. Like for real, like we need to end this. Like call all of those guys into the room, and there's a lot of them, Baruch Hashem. They're in all of the different communities, Muncie's, Lakewoods, etc. I see it happening. Like I'm really positive. I see it happening. I see those guys. They're all starting to become more into Kedusha. They're starting to become more into holiness. They're starting to become more into Rabbanim. So it's changing on its own, but we're in a bad spot. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
We're in a bad spot. It's changing on its own. Will the next generation have the ability to not participate in what's been happening over the past really 15 years since so much money's entered the Orthodox young Jewish world? I've seen it first get like a little bit worse, and now it's getting better. And I think the heads of our communities need to speak up much, much more.
Well, what's the problem?
Covet, massive covet,
Why
and
shouldn't they
conspicuous
get
consumption.
covet?
There are from Orthodox-run companies and multiples of them, this is fascinating, that are responsible for throwing the top events in this country. Okay, so you have people with yarmulkes who are Shomer Shabbos and married with families. They're spending their time throwing the most curated, massive, high-class events you've ever seen, from the Grammys to, weddings that are just nuts, right? And it's from people.
Right.
In the secular world, the top clubs and top restaurants, Hamevin Yavin,
right,
they're run and financed by Jewish guys.
Are they?
Not necessarily from religious guys, but people they're not yet from. But this is a problem that Jews, we are at, in a sense, like peak conspicuous consumption, assimilation, part of that world that is not real. It's all fake. How can we have money coming into the system from that kind of energy and not, we shouldn't have problems in our system? So the leadership, the head, has to change. And by educating these young, really wealthy people. And that's, in a sense, what I'm doing. I'm not really wealthy. I make investments, and I'm with partnerships with very wealthy people. We're educating each other, getting closer to Hashem, learning the Tanya, studying a little bit about Breslev. What is happiness? Just being Marva Sedra, going to shul, struggling that, all of those things are going to hopefully end what the issue is. Are you following what the issue is?
Not really. That's what I'm trying to get to. Because I will say I grew up, and the message in my house was money was evil. That was the message. Now, I don't know if you know that. You were at my house, but money was evil.
Your Shabbos meals were just unbelievably epic.
They were epic.
Your mother, Alea Hashalom.
Yeah.
Wow. What a tzaddikus. I don't know what was going on outside of my enjoyment of leaving my house. I'm going to the Perlmans,
Yeah.
But
until it got banned, and eventually, the yeshiva boys were not supposed to come so much when my sisters got old enough,
Really? I wasn't,
You weren't part of that.
Yocheved, Sarah.
She got them all.
Of course, Shim, Kiwi.
Yeah. Kiwi's changing the world.
Kiwi's, wow,
Yeah.
special guy.
Yeah.
Miami Boys Choir, sparkly jacket guy.
See, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. Sparkly jacket guy.
Yeah, growing up in your house, going to the Shabbos meals that your mother, I don't know, I'm just forgetting the word, but she proceeded. What's the word that we're looking for? She oversaw.
She was the queen.
She was the queen, but turban. I mean, she was so early in the world of mind, I think, and self.
Yeah.
She was good friends with Simon Jacobson.
Yeah. Simon did not come on yet, but we'll get him.
Simon didn't come on.
He keeps saying yes, but it never happens.
He has to be here also.
Yeah.
Like people, we're getting old.
I'm still very close with Simon.
So I remember Simon and your mother's practice, and when clients were over, we stayed as quiet as we can on like 10th floor. These houses had like 10 floors.
A lot of floors.
There were staircases everywhere.
What people didn't know about my mother is that she was, maybe some people knew, she could go toe-to-toe with pretty much any Rosh Hashiva on learning. She was absolutely outraged. All she did was learn like Sfarim when she wanted to.
I didn't know
deep.
that.
She was deep in. I watched her go like Torah-wise and Kabbalistic-wise and Hasidus-wise.
She knew a lot.
Like everything. Wild. She was very, I got my love of books from her. Like, it's that she's, I have a book problem, I think, at this point. But
I don't know how many books you have. Are they good books? Are they valuable books, or just they're valuable for the
they're
content?
valuable for me.
They're not
I don't
from
have value. Right.
100 or something.
I would buy them if I could, but my favorite, I actually just went to my old, I'm never in the Five Towns. I'll see if you remember this. I went to my favorite thrift shop of all time. What's the favorite thrift shop?
Next to Jerusalem Pizza Shop.
Exactly. What was it called? The women or something? I forgot which one.
It's a not-for-profit. It was a not-for-profit.
JW or something like that.
Purim, we would go out there and chill.
Do you know that when I worked as a Tova mentor, so I would take
Tova's
guys.
the OG.
The OG
Sonny,
mentoring
you
program.
are the OG. People need to know Sonny is the OG mental health and wellness professional.
Yeah.
Also, Far Rockaway had like the first drug overdose. Do you remember who I'm talking about without saying? May he rest in peace.
I think I do. I think it was, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to say.
You could say a street, but.
Gotcha. I know what you're talking about. It was the first one that I knew of.
Because it was the first one.
Yeah.
And I remember that as a kid. I go into myself, whoa. I knew that guy.
Yeah, you
I
must have
was
been
with
like
him in
12
shul.
or something.
Yeah,
You was
with him in shul. He wasn't that many years older than me.
Right.
And that was shock. That was like a shocker as a kid, knowing like, wow, got a problem.
Right.
And I was a kid.
Right.
I was like, we got a problem.
Yeah, so I was dealing with it back with the Tova mentors. I used to go in there.
Tova.
The Tova. I was the first cool mentor. All your friends were my mentees, like all of them. I don't know if you know that. Like all the guys your age. Your age was like my first group. It was, I'm not going to say names, but they were all
Give
your
me their
guys.
initials. No, I
One of them lived right across the street from me. Yeah, that's one.
By the way, yeah, I didn't mean to cut off the Tova thing, but this is much more important. Beach 9th Street and the people that have come out of Beach 9th, Sage, Empire, legends. I was thinking about it last night, like Sonny Perlman. I mean, we have other families. We're here, so we could say your name, but
Yeah.
the Gassworth family, the Liebers,
Yeah.
the Feldheims, Zweigs. You had a big Rosh Hashiva lived like 3 doors away from you. I forget his name. Moved in a little bit later.
Did I?
I forget his name. Rabbi Stern. Or, not Rabbi. No, I forget his name.
Okay.
Up and down, the Cassovers.
Yeah.
The Elephants.
Like, these are the.
This is mind-blowing to think about that block.
Yeah.
And the importance of that block. And Sage and Empire.
Do you know
Ackermans,
my wife grew up on
Mishkowitz,
Sage.
Friedman. Your wife grew up on Sage?
My wife grew up
Who
on
did you
Sage
marry?
Street. I married Allie Greenwald. And I don't think you knew them because they moved out a little earlier than you. I played hockey in front of her house for 2.5 years. Never met her.
Greenwald?
Greenwald.
Does she have brothers?
She has one sister, Michal, that's what we talk about.
Oh, that's her
Michal
sister.
Weinstein.
It's funny because I know her, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
They're sisters.
They're sisters.
Fascinating.
She grew up on Sage Street.
So
and they had a
bizarre.
monkey. I thought you would know about the monkey.
I didn't know about the monkey.
I knew there was a family with a monkey.
What year did they move out? Or maybe I'm forgetting.
They
that they had
probably moved out. Let's say she was maybe 16 or 15. So probably, 90. Let's say 90.
Okay, I wouldn't have known them.
Am I saying 90? Yeah. But they were right there on Sage Street.
Sage Street, massive roller hockey till 12 a.m. There was one family that had goals. They were very strict with them, you know. Sometimes people would break into
Well,
their
the
garage.
Breshers.
The Breshers are
They're Empire right there.
legends, but they're
Yeah.
Hicksville.
They're Hicksville.
They're Hicksville.
They're not Hicksville.
Hicksville.
They're Reed's Lane.
Mixed bag. Reed's Lane, excuse me. Reed's Lane. Another epic.
When was the last time you
street.
thought of Reed's Lane?
Never.
Never.
Living in Florida, you don't think about anything but Eretz Yisrael
That's all you
because
think
you're
about.
living in the best place possible.
What do you
man.
remember about Reed's Lane?
Obviously, the Darche Bikeathon was a big one. And
That's
then
right.
Friday nights was just, walking up and down Reed's Lane.
My first
Humans
job
looking at humans.
at 12 years old was at the Darche Bikeathon, working for Yisachar Zaychik.
He was like the coolest guy in the world.
Yeah, doing cotton candy.
The coolest guy. You were cotton candy.
Cotton candy.
Nothing could get better in life than being in charge of the cotton candy at a Darche Torah Bikeathon working for your Zachar Zaychik.
Yeah.
What happened to him? Where is he?
He's around.
He's around.
He's around there.
Is he still crushing it?
He's doing stuff. He did restaurants and stuff. He does stuff.
I hope he's okay. These are legendary people. It's all in.
Dude, you're a kid. He's like, wow.
Well, unfortunately, as you get older, you start realizing that a lot of the adults are not that smart.
It's not just not smart. They were all a mess.
A mess.
Every
A mess?
single one of them was a mess. We looked up to these people.
Yeah.
The fascinating thing is I ended up working with all their kids. So, and I'm like, you guys are all a mess. This neighborhood is a mess. Anyway, I shouldn't
It's not
say
the
that.
same anymore. Meaning the mess that first of all, Far Rockaway is a Makam Torah. It has always been. Rav Shlomo Freifeld. I mean, we understand?
Yeah, I was Shayasha family.
Rav Shlomo Freifeld lived in our neighborhood.
Your father was the first Breslov rabbi.
My father was and
He's
is
the first
he
Breslover,
remains.
that's what I
He's the
think.
very first Breslover since I don't know.
I think
we could go into that.
Reb Nosson.
What do I really remember of Reed's Lane
Yeah.
is having to walk to somebody's house all the way at the end of it to go to a minyan with 10 wackos.
That was the Breslov Minion.
Yes.
Which we
and
went to.
the neighborhood thought these people lost it.
Yeah.
You're dancing in somebody's living. There's shuls everywhere, like real ones. You guys are packing it up on a Friday night, walking 20 minutes across town to go to somebody's like attached house to dance with the floors creaking a little bit. And it's like, what are you guys doing exactly? I wanted to know the same thing. I had no idea what was going on.
That's true.
You could see my hat now, but I hated Breslov and anything that had to do with it for a long time. Absolutely. I start dragging you 5, 6, 7-year-old up Reed's Lane. On a Friday, your friends are in shul.
In regular shuls.
In regular shuls, yeah, you're in the lobby, you're chilling. No.
White shul.
We're sitting and clapping in somebody's living room after. Sounds fun, but not if you're a little kid. Now, today it's like the thing to do. My father would disappear behind the Soviet curtain for Rosh Hashanah,
He was doing that back then?
Yeah.
I remember he's like, I never heard of Breslov until your father
Unbelievable.
and the guy who had that house. Eventually, we had the minion in our house. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that.
We ended up switching. We had
You stole the Breslov Thunder?
No, I think it was a Kalbach. We ended up
That's
doing,
different. Very different.
We ended
This
up
was
doing
Breslov.
Kalbach in there.
I didn't know you had that in your house. Like
Our house
every
got famous
Friday night?
For a while. I don't remember when it was. I think Kiwi was a big part of that. Like, I was a little bit older. I was out so young.
You were out of the house. You were traveling. You
was
You were
traveling.
seeking. You were finding yourself.
Yeah, I moved out
Now you have a
officially at
podcast.
16. Now I have a podcast. At 16, I was out completely. I moved to Israel. That's what most people do. And not everybody knew me. Not everybody knows that, but I was out. And then I would come back and visit Farak. I was like, what is this place?
Well, you were exploring and living your own life, your own reality.
Yeah, sleeping in an Arab cemetery in the bottom of town. That's a whole nother story.
Were they speaking Arabic to you, the ghosts?
When I used to sleep there, that was like my favorite place. I actually thought about it this morning. I'll tell you why. Because I was really hungry, but I did not want a real meal. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted something very simple, and I went in and I had a butter bagel. Just a bagel.
Simple as it gets.
With butter. And by the way, 2 butter bagels, which is what I got, was over $10, which I don't even know what to do with that. But okay.
Where?
In Hava Java, here in Muncie.
Right
over
now?
$10. Right now,
For
this morning.
2 butter bagels, it's $10 in Muncie?
10 something at the end of it. I was like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
You're getting ripped off by your bagel guy.
No, it's the worst. It's the
bagel
worst.
guy's ripping
I'll
you
tell you a lesson I learned. If you want to know how expensive a store is, you have to just buy one item. Because if you ever go out to eat, okay, it's $160. What do? You pay it. You know, you're not thinking. Go in and get a smoothie or something. You come out like, why is that $64
I
for
understand.
a smoothie? So you have to
buy one item to check yourself.
Yeah, check yourself. You're like, what? That's what I'm
Where's
paying?
one of those short guys? No more?
No, I got.
So yeah.
So this morning I go to get a butter bagel.
That reminds you of an
And
Arabic cemetery.
no, when I was really poor, living kind of homeless in Israel, and I was sleeping in the cemetery. Here you go. I think we have. Oh, man. There you go. So every morning for 3 shekel, I go to Bonkers Bagels for 3 shekel.
Love that name.
And you get an egg bagel with butter in it. That was what you got. But Bonkers Bagels offered you all the vegetables for free in any sandwich you get. So I just would say everything and then double it up. And I would make it like the fattest bagel ever for 3 shekel and then get a cup of water. And that was my breakfast. So that was $1. So that's the difference between today and then. But I was gone by the time I was 16.
How old are you now?
So now I'm 46.
Got it.
Isn't it weird that you caught up?
I caught up.
That's what happens. When you hit 40, you catch up.
Yes.
No, you hit 30, you catch up.
I think that 30 to 40 is like a great age to get lost, actually.
Really?
That's what I thought. That's what worked for me. Get lost meaning intellectually, spiritually, like you don't know what's going on. I know you still have to be a responsible parent and responsible
No, because
spouse.
I think of those years as like intense parenting years. Like you don't get to think about yourself.
Our
enough.
generation needs to sell. Like I spent the past 10 years with my wife sort of parenting ourselves, like fixing and still working on our, we're children of Holocaust generation, so
Right.
it's not a good situation.
No.
That's why I have a lot of compassion and empathy for anybody who's just not living their best life or isn't trying to. We come from the Holocaust. They were slitting babies, raping women, killing people, medical tests, gassing them. What on earth?
And that was just October 7th. No, I'm just kidding.
Never again.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
No, it's crazy.
Because the world is like, the fact
Crazy.
that they're denying it happened like 10 minutes ago. But
again, that was, yes, man.
so
October
we're all
7th,
a mess. But
October 7th, Hashem Yirachim. I don't like even talking about it because I have no idea what's going on.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But the Holocaust, like, I know what happened. I know,
And you know the
It was a whole
damage.
generation. I'm able to see the damage. Well, I'm helping with Hashem's help to
your
deal with
parents'
the damage.
parents
You know what I
were
mean?
in the Holocaust? No,
Both sets, yeah.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Our parents' generation is a mess, bro.
Very Holocausty people. It's not good. Comedy and the Holocaust actually go very well together now that it's a very, very long time ago. But since this has been happening again to us, it's like, this is not a joke. It's a big problem. It's a very big problem. But there's a lot of trauma in our generation, your generation, that we need to stop. And that's the work that I'm trying to do for myself, for my wife, for my kids. I love parenting now. I freaking love it. I know what to do because I saw what the last generation was doing didn't work. Everybody's messed up.
So what are you doing different?
It's a really, really good question.
Yeah.
My relationship with my kids, how
The last podcast
how am I raising
I did.
them? Chanoich al pi darkei. However you see they need to be raised, raise them. For me, I get to live out of the box. I don't live in a yeshiva community specifically. So, and I also don't have sons. So those are two, anomalies to the system. Like if I had a son and he was in yeshiva and all of a sudden I had to do this, that, and the other thing, it's going to be a problem. I'm not doing this, that, and the other thing to fit into your program of life. That's not how anybody should be living. My approach to child rearing is Chanoich al pi darkei. The Torah tells us what to do. We got a manual, the Orthodox Jews, the Old Testament, all Jews. The Old Testament, it tells us, and all the commentaries on it, it tells us what to do, just we're not doing that. One of my daughters loves to draw. Bam. Artist.
Right.
She loves to this. Support that. Support it. My other kid likes tennis. Support the tennis game. Support it. Not connected. Did you do school? Did you do that? Support it. I wouldn't mind if they dropped out of school, and pursued her tennis career. I don't know how she's gonna do, but I don't care because she doesn't like school. Well, school sucks.
Yeah.
Newsflash. What on earth is anybody learning in school? Nothing. So we're educating.
Do you believe we're doing this to our kids? We made our kids go back to school.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's nuts.
But it's only because we don't have time and money to just be home with them, doing and educating them ourselves, right? We can't do that. But I think everybody's approach should be really Chanoich al pi darkei, like really let your kids shine. Stop dimming their lights. That's what parents do. You know that? You ever see parents scream at that thing? And we have to sometimes scream at kids. We have to sometimes have serious discipline conversations. But for the most part, it shouldn't be like that. And how is it not like that? Because you're letting your kid live and you're educating them right and wrong. Also, I'm very open about the work I do with plant medicine.
Right.
I'm very open with my introduction to cannabis. I'm not a pothead from 16, 14. I know such people. Right. I didn't try some cannabis till I was 30. It was illegal as far as I was concerned. I'm not gonna.
Really?
Yeah. I just waited till the peer pressure was so great. We're a bunch of 30-year-olds. Everybody's having a great time except me. And somebody's like, yo, have a brownie. It was actually a Hanukkah
You did
chill.
a brownie before you smoked a joint?
Yes.
Holy moly.
It was not fun. The second night, yeah, we saved some.
Dude, edibles can be insane.
Well, look, I'm very, very open with my kids about what I'm doing for mental health and wellness. It's not usual. It's unusual. My kids know all about psychedelics. They understand the importance of it. They understand. They've seen people. Right.
So I think psychedelics. I think psychedelics are connected to what we were talking about before, because I have this interesting thing. I asked that question before. Do you think the wealthy are jealous of the happy? And I think that's a big generalization, and I think it's an unfair question, right? Because it's huge. But what I am finding is that when people get wealthy, they realize that their goal was to be happy. It was not to be wealthy. And wealthy doesn't necessarily make that goal happen, although it helps.
That's a message of psychedelics.
So what I'm saying is that psychedelics is it's necessary. It was coming because everybody needs. I have this thing. I go with my wife once in a while. We'll talk about going into a room and there's a lot of wealthy people in the room, and you just feel a little uncomfortable. Maybe it's their crew, and I'm holding my wife's hand because we're crazy in love after all the years we're married. And it's just getting better and better, and it really is. Some people like to make jokes, but it's really just getting better and better, and it's very obvious to the world. And I'm everybody in this room is just looking to be in love, like me and you. You think that that we're supposed to be admiring wealth. Wealth is good if it makes you in love, or it makes you grow.
It's
or
a tool. It's a tool.
It's a tool. So what happens. So I think the psychedelics, and I find a lot of wealthy people are into psychedelics, and I'm not necessarily.
There's a direct correlation,
but there's a correlation.
But
that no, because the whole world thinks if I get wealthy, it's fine. But the wealthy are saying, no, we need to have
help.
a fulfilling
They need help.
life.
Right.
So I think it's a very. I'm bringing it up again. I feel bad. I'm like obsessing about wealth, like you said.
Right.
Jeez,
I'm more of figuring out. Well, again, we spoke of an issue that I was just talking about that I find specific to the Orthodox Jewish community, that wealth and conspicuous consumption has gotten so out of control.
What do you mean conspicuous consumption?
Spending money on things that there is no reason to do that. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason for somebody to go, okay, I'm going to make it like, it's going to be like this, but forget it. Let's make it like this. And there's just no reason, only because they have the money.
Right.
That's extremely unhealthy. That the people who are doing that, they're not healthy because they're not thinking properly. They're caught up, as I like to say, they're lost in the sauce. Psychedelics takes you out of that. It's like a stupor. It's like the Gemara talks about that people who nebuch are committing sins, at the time sins are being committed, you're overtaken by like a ruach, some crazy spirit, like literally overtakes you, because this is not normal. This is not who you are. That's the whole Varden, like tshuva and being able to make big comebacks, is when we're behaving certain ways that are we should not be behaving. That's not really who we are. That's not you. This is not you. People conflate themselves. Like, so you have these wealthy guys or wealthy families, or they're doing things that are such conspicuous consumption. They're going through a crazy situation. They're lost in the sauce. Like, that was my concern. You asked a question about wealth and happiness. I'm worried about an issue where, like, our community has not educated the wealthy, the rabbis, the rabbanim are not really standing up and saying, guys, a lot of money, I get it. I think everybody needs to calm down, go on a mushroom trip, relax. And I've seen many wealthy people go on mushroom trips. Their whole entire dynamic changes. The whole thing.
What changes?
Everything. Exactly as you said it. You meet them 5 years later and they're like involved in different projects. They're not, they used to drive the latest car, 2-3 of them parked. Not Matt, these wheels, they're just, they're different. They're not so shiny. They're not so intense. Start going to Eretz Yisrael a little bit more. They maybe even feel bad what the way they were behaving, how they were spending, and because it's coming anyways. The world is starting to get fixed, whether it likes it or not. We're so far gone as like humans. I heard a guy say, like, dude, we are literally just talking monkeys standing on a rock floating through space. That's what we are. And the delusions of people to think we're not.
I think that's Joe Rogan quote. Just throwing.
No, it's a Joe Rogan quote. I saw it from this like shaman-looking guy the other day in a robe, and he was like talking into this axe that was also a mic. And I was like, what? And then he started saying this really smart thing.
Oh, I saw that. I think I saw.
You saw that? You saw that?
I think I saw the guy with the axe. I don't know.
Yeah, he's talking into an axe. It's an axe mic.
Well, I don't know what the axe mic.
It's an axe, and I think he clipped the mic to the axe.
Just
and
clipped
he was
the mic.
Yeah, I thought it was an axe mic. I didn't go so deep, but I was fascinated by what he's saying because you're into comedy.
Very much.
I am so into comedy. I don't go to bed without watching comedy,
Nice.
and I try to get people to do that. Go to sleep laughing.
Okay.
Go to bed laughing. You're gonna get up like a lion in the morning. I dance out of my bedroom in the morning every morning because, like, I went to sleep laughing. I'm waking up with Brian Quinn in my brain. You ever see that guy?
No.
Oh my God.
Is that
I'm
terrible?
gonna be up the whole night. Yeah.
How did I miss
bad.
somebody?
Not Brian Quinn. Hang on.
Dude, don't do this to me.
This guy?
I know.
He's great. He is so good. He has I can't say his jokes because I won't do it justice. But the point is that the wealthy people are drawn to fixing themselves. I wouldn't say they're jealous of people who are happy. They just also want to be happy. And psychedelics changes that entire mechanism of thought. And our system is starting to regurgitate it. You know, the way, I guess you're on X.
No.
Are you on social media?
I do Instagram.
Instagram is a great thing to bring up. I'm on Instagram.
Yeah.
I went on it for a specific reason, for business.
Right.
It was, people who are in the business advisement world. You got to have an Instagram account. You got to be out there. Content. You got to be making content. And then I started realizing, like, first of all, it's not true. No offense to anybody. And no offense to, of course, this amazing podcast. And no offense to me, sitting here with a mic, looking at a camera.
There you go.
But it's not really, really, really true.
Why is that mic running away from you?
I don't know. But the idea is that, like, we've hit, if you go on Instagram, we've hit almost like peak influencer delusion. Like, I see Orthodox Jewish people behaving like non-Jewish influencers, except they're from an Orthodox.
Right.
It's such a delusion because it's fake to begin with. So the non-Jewish influencers, it's all fake.
Right.
They're unhappy. They're giving advice. They're hustling you. They're telling you how to live, but selling you a course for $9.99 a month. It's all fake. Now we have Orthodox Jewish people behaving and telling us how to live and how to act and how they're doing it. And they look all dressed up and made up and everything's perfect. And you're like, bro, do you realize what you're doing? This is peak comedy. You are copying an element of influencer from the not Jewish world, which is fake. And now you're behaving in a way that's fake yourself. Because in order to set everything up to promote it, you got to be doing fake.
Right.
Your office has to be clean.
Yeah.
If you're a cooking lady, your kitchen's got to be clean. If you're an event planner, you're always dressed up. Like, what? What's going on here? Wow. We really all bought into this nonsense. It's related to wealth. It's related to happiness. It's related to psychedelics. Everybody should do whatever they want when it comes to doing whatever they want in the media and in the new age of media. Like Elon Musk says, we're the media. You're the media. We are.
Right.
But don't get lost in the sauce. Don't start acting like we're not just from Jews, talking monkeys, flying through space on a rock. There's some from podcasters doing some great, great work.
Yeah.
Like Storm with Sonic Perlman.
Brainstorm.
The difference is your approach, like here, is very authentic and tied into like mental health and wellness. But there are other podcasts who are trying to behave like super, super, in a way, detached from, we're Orthodox Jews.
Right.
We got to be Tyradik. We need to get closer to Hashem.
But okay, let me push back.
Please.
Pushing back because
please.
I was actually on another podcast and they asked me like what I thought about social media, and they kind of thought I would go at it, and what I think about social media is that it's inevitable. What I mean by that is, there's more than one thought here, but it's inevitable in the sense where, as for some reason in this world, we're like super disconnected from other people. And that's like really somewhere in our soul, we know that the core of everything is that we're supposed to merge with each other. We're supposed to be k'ish echad, b'lev echad. That's the top of the mountain, literally. When we were at the mountain, it didn't say that everybody like knew a lot of halachas.
Right.
It didn't say that people wore white shirts. It said
you could go down that road.
That we were one. We were one. So I'm thinking, listen, we can't all be sitting at Har Sinai all day. It's not our thing. But maybe we can with enough psychedelics. But okay, we'll discuss that. I'm just kidding. I actually don't think we can or we should. But we'll address that in a second. But the idea is if you want to know what the pinnacle of humanity is, you look at the story of Har Sinai. When God is directly talking to you, telling you, I am one, which means one, we're one, means one, which means we can't be separated from him. And then we say that we were standing, k'ish echad b'lev echad. We were one. So our soul, or whatever it is that's deep inside us, our true self knows that the core of everything is to be connected. It really is the core of everything. And everything in the world is pulling us away from that truth.
You think social media is
I think
bringing it together?
I think social media was the answer to something that started to happen, is that we started getting more and more separated with technology, with telephones, with radio, with TV, with everything. You could have a little universe in your home. You don't need the other people. I don't need you to help me dig my hole, or the Amish. I don't need you to build my barn today. So we don't have to do that together because we don't need each other anymore. We've gone to a place where we don't need each other, but we want each other. Holy cow. And the world got so separated that social media said, hey, guys, you could be in your house and still be one. Now, did it get corrupted and go into a different place? Yeah, and I agree with the things you're saying. But what I'm saying is, if anything tells us the mission of life, social media is yelling at us and saying, be connected to each other. So I actually love the idea, and like every idea gets corrupted by I said to my wife the other day, I'm like, how is this not a simulation where I'm nervous about, something's coming up January 31st. And like, if I don't take care of it, my life is over, right? So then January 31st will come up and I will get it done and it will happen. And I'll have all this anxiety till then. So January 31st, I'm going to be calm, right? Heck no. It's coming. The next thing that I got to be super anxious about is happening on February 1st. I don't know what it is now, but it's coming. And it's going to be so dire and so important that I got to take care of it. What I'm saying is I feel like the entire world, and maybe this is the reason for creation. We talk about like the Shvir Sakalem and like how the world, all it's doing is trying to pull us away from the core, and the core is oneness. When you go into a psychedelic trip, it's always saying some version of wholeness or oneness, or like, Joe Rogan has a thing like, take these leaders that are like destroying the world and like just give them some psychedelics and 100%. They will. You were talking about this on a podcast.
Absolutely. Because we actually had some, not world leaders, but people who are in positions that we've introduced to psychedelics. And absolutely, this is like a real mission to get leadership to sit down and pass a DMT pen around and have a few shamans and some proper, people who can hold the space. And the world will automatically start cycling into a real peaceful energy. And the Torah says that the refuah, the healing part, always is prepared for the makkah, for the smack. It's already there.
Right.
The psychedelics, because we keep going back to it,
it's
been here since the 1920s when LSD was first synthesized, the red bike day. And psilocybin's been used for centuries, many centuries. And, the serotonin receptors, it's all natural. It's from the ground.
Yeah, but my pushback is, and I was on Ellie Nash, who's a huge component to this stuff, right? I was on his podcast. And he actually was getting real annoyed at me.
Why is that?
Because I was pushing back. I'm like, this is not the first psychedelic revolution.
Not at all.
Our parents were tripping their faces off in the 60s. And look what happened.
Here's the difference.
Talk to me, baby. Because I really have a pushback.
Here's the difference. Our parents were not tripping their faces off in the context of healing. They were tripping their faces off in the context of music and like free love and that kind of energy. The energy around it being used today in certain communities is one of oneness, which is what you were just talking about a moment ago. And that is very different than the 60s or 50s or whatever they were doing back then. And it's very different than the way it was used for centuries by tribes. I mean, psilocybin was discovered in Mexico. A tribe was, that there's a story of a tribe that when somebody went to get and retrieve some strain, they told them, like the tribal leader, a woman, told them that she was told, going back a couple of generations, the Messiah, that they're holding this for the Jewish people. And when the Jewish people come to them asking for this, buckle up. Now, this was going back to like the 60s. But what has happened since then? There was absolutely an opening of the pineal glands of all of those people, whether they were doing it in the right context or not. That's now, fast forward, you got an RFK Jr. who's going to legalize all of this stuff. There was just a bill, I think, today in New York to legalize psilocybin for, it'll end up being recreational uses, but it's not. It's going to heal people like off the wazoo. The start that you're referring to has resulted in exactly what's going on now. Had they not been tripping their faces off in the wrong context, in my opinion, we would not have it today, because that's their age group going, yeah, this stuff does something. And if it's being used by the right people and the oversight is proper, and the work I've done over the past two and a half years now, almost 3 years in psychedelics, since I started like doing work in the space, has been to create proper infrastructure for the frum community so they can feel safe interacting with a therapist and a frum intake call center. And they're comfortable either in their own home or they'll come to a location. They don't have to go to a retreat in freaking, I don't know, Costa Rica for 7-8 days with people who are, no offense to Christians, but a lot of Christian shamans out there that see different things when they are tripping, and I don't think they should be leading Jewish people.
Right.
And I know that everybody has a different opinion than me within the space that I work, but I really don't care. This is kedusha. This is not. It's being held, and it was held by the other side, so to speak, for a while. But when we're coming into the Ikvasa de Mashiach, there are going to be plants involved. How can you, social media. So you're right. Social media, oneness. You can make an announcement. That's why I get such a kick out of social media. Like, you just like make an announcement. You could never do that before.
Yeah.
You have to be the news anchor. Now you could be the news anchor this morning. Who didn't want to get up and go to be in a movie? Or you could get up and be in a movie. And you're your own distributor.
Right.
And you're your own content creator. It's unbelievable opportunity. But at the same time, I'm seeing people get like really lost in the sauce. And like, life's not social media. Life is going all in all day, no matter what anxiety, no matter what you think challenge you're in or you're coming out of or you're going into. That's it. No social media, no drugs, no psilocybins, no psychedelics. You can go. Hashem has made our bodies perfect. That's why I'm always like, when my kid or myself, you get a cut.
Yeah.
You ever see those sci-fi movies with like robots with this skin that they make that automatically? That's what we are.
Right.
That's what we are. That's copying the perfect human.
Right.
So we don't really need any of this, realistically. That's why, again, these are just my like opinions. There's no factual basis for it. But if you look in historically, they were living on a much more supernatural connective frequency.
Well, I think
perhaps.
Okay, so now this is something maybe this is a call for action, because a friend of mine's upset because I've been saying some negative stuff about psychedelics.
I don't think you said anything negative here today, and I would love to hear some of the negativity.
Yeah.
Do you want to officially jump? Because so far, like I said, we're bouncing around. Do you want to jump into a psychedelic conversation about psychedelic therapy?
I thought we already were.
Okay, because there's a lot of far Rockaway that must. It has to be put out there for the world. We should just be
spiking the drinks. That's what.
Oh right.
Just walking
it's
in.
A sober house. We're in a sober house.
It's we're in a sober house. Yeah. By the way, I get a lot of pushback from the sober community, which I'm very deeply in, and so there's a lot of pushback against me even entertaining the idea, even though there's a tremendous amount of research talking about how it's helpful. But that's okay. So I'm getting a lot of pushback, but that's not my pushback. I'd love to have this conversation. Yeah, so it's not my pushback. My pushback is exactly what you're saying. Okay, let's go to the Har Sinai example, right? I said I'm going to go back to that because what happened was at Har Sinai, right? Har Sinai, you're going to have to clip that one. Har Sinai, we hit the top, right? Or like the day you get married, like it's the top. You're at the top. The deepest connection you could possibly have. And then, this is the wild thing, 40 days later, they're freaking serving an idol. Like, what the hell just happened? Like, you just touched the divine, like on the highest level of any human being I don't care what kind of psychedelics you're talking about. If you're at Har Sinai, that's the best trip you've ever experienced in your entire world, right? And 40 days later, they're going against the thing that Hashem told them in the second one, which he said with his own name. They made an idol, right? And seems pretty shocking, the whole experience. Okay. And then after that, we have 40 years in the desert, right? So what the heck is going on here? Because what happens is that we could, for moments of time, touch the divine. And I think psychedelics has that ability. We could touch oneness on a level that no one's ever experienced before. What happens immediately afterwards is we start missing that. And we're like, I need to be at the top again. And I think the reason they serve the idol, hold on.
Sorry.
We'll go
Excuse me.
afterwards.
Yep.
This is a monologue. No, I'm kidding. Light your cigar.
It's a rhetorical monologue. Relax.
Yeah, just smoke. I'm making this poor guy smoking cigars. All right. So we get to they missed, and we say in the Medrash that we saw Moshe Rabbeinu die. Like, our connection to the divine just is gone. So we got to make another one immediately. Like, we got to, the point, and then the response that God says is, you need to spend 40 years being held in my hands. I'm going to hold you with a cloud. It's going to be fully loved. You'll be supported. I'll give you all the food. I'm going to lead you with a fire of light, like your hat. I'm going to lead you with this pillar of fire. I'm going to do everything for you, and you're going to do your child and understand what it means to work your way back to the divine. And our life's goal and mission is to be working for that divine. And we couldn't get into the connection with Hashem until we got into the Holy Land. Like, that's when we got in. But we needed to understand that connection and work for it. It had to be a desert where we went through to get there. My issue, that I've been seeing, is that people who do psychedelics, they get that experience. And then they think that, and I see this over and over again, and this is my pushback, and I think there's some good answers, but I don't know it yet. And so this is something that helped me so much in my life, so it's hard even for me to challenge it, but I am challenging it. For me, I do this every decade. That's it. I'm not doing this every week or every month, but I keep seeing people. This becomes, I want my freebie back to the divine. I want it. I want to take the psychedelics. I want to experience it. To me, that's getting lost in the sauce. Meaning, the real connection to the divine and to others comes through hard work. We have to go through the desert and do the work and fight our way back. Okay, one second.
You're finished?
Almost.
You could be finished. I'll tell you why you could be finished.
I could be finished if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh, man, do I understand what you're saying. Perfect. And you're really speaking to the right guy.
Right.
Okay. Can you ask me when my last massive, blast off was?
All right. When was your last massive blast off? I asked.
Leveraging psychedelics for therapy in that context.
Mm-hmm.
It's now going to be probably 5 or so years ago.
Okay.
Why is that? Because I'm doing the hard work. And my wife is doing the hard work. And the entire purpose of a psychedelic experience is to go and do the hard work. Scientifically, the different receptors, there's really one receptor. I think it's called the 5H2T receptor. I'll be fact-checked if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But that receptor
Jamie had to take off.
binds, we'll have to edit it. But that binds naturally from the plant to the receptor. And it resets the serotonin upshoot in the brain for actual neuroplasticity. These are science terms. This is not like, I don't know. No, this is what the plant does. DMT ayahuasca, right? Psilocybin is psilocin. That's what it turns. Psilocybin turns into psilocin. It binds to that receptor and it resets the serotonin levels. Ibogaine, have you heard of Ibogaine?
Sure.
Certainly. Ibogaine resets the dopamine pathways. Addicts who are super deep in whether they're addicted to their depression or they're addicted to an actual, an opioid addiction of some sort, Ibogaine resets the dopamine pathway to the point of when they started pre-addiction. It's back to normal levels. You don't need, the plant does that naturally.
Yes.
DMT, ayahuasca, an MAO inhibitor is naturally in those vines so that it can't break down in the stomach and it goes straight to the brain and it resets the serotonin upshoots in the brain for neuroplasticity. New neurons are being connected. The whole entire quagmire that you're bringing up has to do with how are these people experiencing the psychedelics? Why are they doing it? Who are they doing it with? And what are they trying to accomplish? And you're right. And I'm chas v'shalom, I'm not calling out anybody because everybody's really doing great work. Because we are pioneers, not pioneers in the term that you previously mentioned. We're not really pioneers. People have been doing this for decades.
I think we're pioneers.
We're pioneers in our generation, though, because the approach is for mental health and wellness. There are always, therefore, going to be things happening, making a lot of noise. You're talking about the noise. But let me introduce you to the people that we've introduced properly to the medicine, not in large groups, not in big places and robes and smoke and people who, none of that. Therapist, psychedelics, integration, 1 to 4 or 5 sessions with the plant, depending on what, not everybody needs more than 1 session. Mm-hmm. You'd be shocked that some of the people who are the most severe depressed people, the most anxious depression you've met, they go for 1 session of a psilocybin experience with a therapist and a few follow-up integrations, and you're getting text, you changed my life.
Right.
I am also interacting with people who are doing exactly what you're saying, and I'm heavily preaching against that. Nobody belongs going once a month for an ayahuasca journey. They will tell you they need it, but those people, in my humble opinion, were probably caught up in something really, really bad. And if this is what they're caught up in now every month, I'm good. As long as they're not hurting their family or they're not living like Rabbi Akiva in a cave, or something like this, and they totally disengage from reality, I'm good with what's going on. While you're focusing on pushback, you should be focusing on advocacy like I am, which is for proper infrastructure, haskamas. I've lined up many therapists who are now trained in psychedelics. And my chief therapist, she is unbelievable. She lived in Peru, trained with the shamans from 5-MeO DMT to the bufo to all of the wild things that sometimes, and my personal opinion remains, this is crisis management stuff. This is like wrists are slit, call us. Kids nebuch anorexic might die, call us. A guy's disappearing, he's so depressed, he's going to commit suicide in some chas v'shalom way, call us. Crisis management, that's what this really is. Husband's not getting out of bed, wife's postpartum, holy cow, call us. Crisis management. Going for a kumsitz and everybody's popping mushrooms, don't call me. I'm not there. Somebody's making a chill event with a bunch of couples and they're going to do a light dose, and it's not for me. I'm not showing up. It's not appropriate.
For the same reasons I'm saying. Similar, saying.
Lost in the sauce, baby. You're lost in the sauce. This is not for recreation. This is not a joke. Psychedelics, look in the camera. This is not for kids. This is dangerous tools, but super necessary for where we're at as a people, where we're at as a generation. Some of us are so far removed from Hashem because of depression, because we're not joyful. We don't have self-esteem. We think everybody's doing something better than us. It's really not true. Nobody's doing anything better. Because you have this podcast, you are doing nothing better than somebody watching this podcast who doesn't have a podcast. Because I'm doing this podcast with you and talking about psychedelics, I am not doing something better than somebody watching this. This might be an inspo for them.
Right.
Hey, these 2 clowns are sitting around talking about stuff, but it's pretty important stuff. Maybe I should go on a mushroom trip. maybe I should go sit in therapy. Maybe I should start a podcast. I don't know. Maybe you should. But definitely be doing stuff, taking action, going crazy. Psychedelics will get you there. And if it's done properly, and that's really my passion, life work now on the side, because honestly speaking, if I had, so to speak, all of the money in the world, I would only be focused on this all day. I don't. So I have to do like deals. I'm a businessman. We're doing this. We're investing in that. We're buying this. We're blah, blah, blah. Who wants to raise capital, put in capital? Really, this is this is what I'm doing.
Right.
Crisis management and it's so important to open it up for everybody. The depressed mom who's been going to her therapist for 25 years and still has a broken relationship with their kid deserves a mushroom trip with a therapist in a comfortable, credible space with people who are verified that they know what they're doing. Starting to speak negatively about it, a good friend of ours was on a podcast. I won't say who he is. He's a good friend. I love him. He's a massive influence in therapy. He's huge. He went on some podcasts and started ripping on psychedelics. And I'm like, it's not true. You might say, I don't like the way this is working. But that's now, we're in a phase. We're figuring it out. We're pioneers. Like, obviously, there's going to be things you don't like the way. This is unbelievable. Imagine if you give every kid the brightest flashlight you've ever seen. And they make some bright flashlights today. Like 200 million lumens, We used to have like 80. Put it out. So, well, boom, wow. Imagine you give that to everybody. There are going to be some people who are going to shine it in the wrong place,
Definitely
some people
watch YouTube videos.
Oh, that's how absolutely. It pops up right before you're going to bed. Do you need a lumen for 2 million? Watch what I'm going to do.
Watch this.
And I'm like,
lights
holy
up the sky.
The whole town.
Yeah.
So that's what psychedelics really, it lights you up like an animal. And then the question becomes, is it in the right hands? And no, it's not. There are many, sketchy people out there providing for other people. And they have their own agenda. They're shamans, or they're the kinds of people that like to lead other people. And this is a tool you could very easily lead. You give mushrooms to a whole room and then you tell them, I'm your leader. You have a good chance of becoming their leader.
Yeah.
Like, as long as you're giving good advice, and because, you can't trick people who have been through psychedelics anymore. That's why I would like to dose every world leader. And quite frankly, almost everybody can use the love that psychedelics teaches you must have to be living your best life. Because really, the whole work is really loving yourself. And when you can love yourself, you can start being joyous with others. The people who don't love themselves, or who are not working on loving themselves, they're the ones going around taking everybody's light. They're dimming everybody. They're poo-pooing this, and then it makes you question your own self-esteem, your own self. That's psychedelics fixes that, like, totally.
Right.
You dose somebody with psychedelics, they're in love. They love. Again, I've only experienced it within the context of sat down, set my intentions, prepared. Where are we going in life? I was very stuck.
Right.
Unfortunately, very stuck. Again, you have to be careful, because you can't say negative things about communities or people. But we were very stuck. The young Orthodox business community is I think a little bit misaligned. Psychedelics is realigning it. So many people are not utilizing psychedelics in a bad way, which is what you're trying to address.
Right.
And I think you're coming from a community of people who have a problem.
I'm very angry about it. And
you're angry which way? Hang on.
I'm angry that people are abusing something so beautiful. That's what I'm angry about.
I don't know who says what abuse is, right? Meaning, let's say
you're
there was a
saying
guy.
It's better than doing drugs, maybe.
I'm saying if a guy was an alcoholic, and we know them.
Yeah.
I would go Shabbos afternoon when I was 25 years old, 30 shots in a row. I'd fall asleep, tumbling on the floor. We lived in an apartment building in Far Rockaway on Beach 9th. The Beach 9th epicness continues. Are you familiar with the building? 156 Beach 9th.
Which one was that?
Luxury condo building, very early, was built. I don't remember exactly what year.
Is that near?
On the beach.
What?
On the beach.
Oh.
Sandcastles. the next, the sandcastle, those multi-large Section 8 housing on
Yeah,
the
we
beach?
lived there.
You lived
Beach 17th before we moved to Beach 9th.
You lived in the towers?
Yeah.
I davened
Sixth
there
floor.
with Rabbi Korn.
6F. Dude, this goes back to when I was like 4 years old. So I think it's 6F.
When did you
4
live
or
there
5.
when you were 4 years old? Why don't I?
Beach 17th.
Before you bought on Beach
You were
9th?
born. You
Right,
weren't
right,
born.
right.
Shim was born in Beach 9th. Shim was born on Beach 9th.
Beach 9th.
I was probably 4 when we moved out.
I don't want to miss
Anyway,
the
you're
energy.
missing it.
That we're missing the energy.
Lost in the sauce, bro.
No. I just wanted to make this point that I don't think anybody's abusing psychedelics. Okay, I think that there are people who were alcoholics prior and they're getting absolutely wrecked almost every night, and now they're going once a month ayahuasca and they're preaching and proselytizing about it. I think that's just much better than an alcoholic. I think somebody who's on fentanyl and Ibogaine helped them sober up, and then they started going, once a month to a group. I don't think that's abusing it, even though I think it's too much. You don't go to the dentist every week. I have a friend, Jeremy Abramson. He's a fantastic shaman. I brought him he came with us to Israel. Right. We put on some ceremonies. We have a wellness center in Baka, Jerusalem. Right. It's an inpatient wellness center. We put on some experiences.
But people could stay there.
People could stay there, yeah.
Okay.
And we put on some experiences for folks that, needed this kind of therapy. And Jeremy's like, he speaks very much about this. Not, you're calling it abusing. I'm just calling it, don't get lost in the sauce. There's so much work to do. And like you said, yeah, there are people who want to go, you were putting it like they need another, whatever, what's it called? The egel. They want to make another egel. It's almost like they're making an egel for themselves. And
I think they're worshiping the tool. Yeah.
That is why I'm like super. Now, you also have to remember that you're talking probably about specific communities. So like the Hasidic community has gone nuts with psychedelics, right? Nuts. And Hasidic community, you went nuts. It's too much. Whoever's doing it and in charge, it's really too much. I don't think they realize the damage that they're doing. But what's the reality? They're not doing damage. These people are happy. They're coming from so much trauma. So they want to sit in a circle and sing kumsitz and have fun. Is it too much? Okay, it's too much. What's the alternative? A bunch of depressed Hasidim pretending to be religious and having no connection with their kids and wives? Like, what do you want the alternative to be? You're coming from a sober house, a sober guy, a sober environment, and everybody's like, whoa, how is this possible, Sani? You're telling me I can't do this, that, the other thing, and these guys are living it up with drugs. Because it's not drugs, it's the medicine. And the medicine is spiritual. And if it's done in the right corpus of people, I'm telling you, it can help get you to Mashiach, to the Geula. That doesn't mean I don't eat mushrooms every day. I haven't done that for a long time.
So this is what I think.
By the way, the fire you hear from me, I'm still living off 6 years ago.
Yeah. And I actually have done it more recently than that. And it's...
How many grams are you want to go into it? Or?
No, I do ayahuasca only so far.
You know that I've never done ayahuasca.
Oh, okay. Well, I suggest it. I don't really suggest it. You do what you do.
It's called me many times. It's called me.
Yeah.
It's called me. I've never done a good mushroom trip.
No. Never did mushroom. So I have no draw, weirdly, to this. As a matter of fact, this last time I did it, I was pretty sure when I did it that was the last time I'll do it. But we'll see what happens with my life. But I'm pretty sure that that's what the fact is. I want to propose that if it's not, like you're saying, it's better than the alternative. I think the people that keep doing it are heading into what we did in the 60s. I know you're explaining it differently, and you're saying, hey, that was different. I think
who are the people? Like get a little bit specific. Because
communities of people that are doing ayahuasca on a regular basis and doing mushrooms on a regular basis and doing bufo on a regular basis and doing all these things on a regular basis. I know people that are drinking ayahuasca for kiddush. I'm not even kidding.
I will tell those people and look in the camera again and say it is potentially apicarsis what you're doing. And it's one of the reasons I'm not so into the vines, because there are callings to, places if you're around non-Jews, because they also have spirituality, right? But our spirituality is the OG tier 1 spirituality. So yeah, I don't agree with that. That is absolutely asinine.
What I'm saying is that I believe that
there are people drinking ayahuasca for Kiddush?
Yeah, and I believe...
How many?
I've only known 2 people that have done that.
Okay, so this is not a big problem, Sonny.
No. I think it's a big problem.
Why? It's 2 people.
For the Kiddush thing. The Kiddush thing is wacky.
How many people do you think are drinking ayahuasca every week? Like every week? How many? How many
people do I know?
Yes.
Many.
5 people?
No.
10 people?
Hundreds.
Sonny,
I know.
We're on a podcast. There's cameras. You know hundreds of people?
Hundreds of people. Not weekly, but at least monthly.
Okay, so now it's not weekly.
At least monthly.
Monthly.
Then it's hundreds.
You know hundreds of people
Yes.
that are every single month.
Yes.
Is there an attrition from
and
that?
That's just,
are there like
say,
a couple of hundred that fall off from the hundreds and then new ones show up? Is there maybe
some people fall off, new people come
so now
in.
wait, so let's keep breaking this down.
Yeah.
You're
I don't know too many people that fell off.
So you're saying
I know
this is
some.
a big
It's
problem.
growing.
This is a big problem.
I see it as a big problem. And I will tell you, one of the reasons I'm very upset about it is because I'm in a community, the sober community. It's another part of my life. I'm in a community where there is so much pushback, and I want to yell from the rooftops, guys, this stuff is, this is like 1,000 therapy sessions. This is 5 years ago in AA meetings. This stuff is like wild. What it did for me and what I see it do for some other people is wild. And I want to yell that. And I want to say, guys, you need to take your biases.
What's stopping
I'll tell you. Well, first of all, I'm doing it a lot. Not unfortunately. What stopped me partially is my organization does not want me to talk about something that is currently illegal and in America. But that's
under a proper operating church of ayahuasca or shul of ayahuasca, if it's properly registered, there's legal precedent fully for it to be totally legal. You're not serving it under the context or pretext, rather, of specifically mental health and wellness.
So that's part of it.
It's a sacrament.
That's part of it.
But the sacrament helps. It's a natural mental health and wellness. Like, yeah.
I'm with you.
And there have been lawsuits. By the way, there was a place in Orlando where a guy went on an ayahuasca journey and they didn't manage him afterwards properly, and he drank like 6 gallons of water and drowned.
Wow.
But that's such a rarity, and they sued, and the place was never shut down. Professional places exist.
Yeah. So, okay. That's not really what's stopping me. Part of me is what's stopping me is because this is new. And not new, but it's new on some level in terms of dealing with it, with addicts and stuff like that. It's definitely new. And I guess I was much more excited about it, especially because of my own personal experiences. And I was yelling about it. And then I started meeting the whole community. And I will say this, and this is something that is maybe, I don't know if I say this, but I believe, because of the people that I've introduced to this, because I did it quietly, introducing people to it, that there possibly is like maybe 5,000 people that have done ayahuasca. And if you went back, you'd find me. It's like I am spreading it in a weird way, because I spread it to some very, very strong connectors that have spread it. And I don't regret that. And I will say that my fear is that people will start using this for the wrong thing. You'll have a lot of sick people that stay sick. And I can't say, well, yeah, but they're all doing it wrong. They're all doing it wrong, because everybody's just seeing it as, well, you might know 10 people that did all right. I know 100 people that are off there getting divorced, finding themselves, blah, 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 and every single week.
Are you against that? Meaning, let's say somebody goes on an ayahuasca journey, and or somebody may go on a psilocybin journey, 4.5, 5, 7, 8 grams in,
right,
and they come back and they go home and they're like, wow, I know what I got to do to be happy.
Right.
I know. God forbid it could result in a divorce. God forbid, again, seemingly God forbid, it can result in somebody literally quitting a job.
Yeah.
It could result in somebody, can you imagine, quitting smoking cigarettes? It could result in somebody losing 150 pounds. It could result in somebody picking up a hobby that they always wanted to do. It could result in many great, great things. And sometimes the not so great things in general in life seem pretty not great until you're like, that's the famous guy, the Steve Jobs guy. He would always say from Apple, you can only connect the dots when we're looking backwards. So you might be calling out some bad stuff. Now, are there people who have like psychosis from this? And are there people who are, they shouldn't have been in the first place? And the way that gets stopped is by putting in a proper infrastructure.
Sure.
Which is what I've built over 2.5 years.
Yeah. And I know, and the alternative is generally taking psychotropic medication. And I'm very anti that almost across the board. In terms of like anti-anxiety and antidepressants, and I'm not a fan. But
sometimes it's necessary. You know that? Sometimes.
That's what they say.
God forbid.
So
it's terrible stuff.
I've seen a lot of damage from that too. I'm bothered by what you're bothered by. That people are living lives that are missing the point, and they end up being very, very unhappy, and it passes to the next generation. And I see that, and I think it happened in the 60s, and I think it happened. There were a lot of people in the 60s that were reinventing parenting, and they were doing this, and it was all because they were convinced that they were enlightened and they figured it out. And the fact is, they were acting practically like drug addicts. And in my opinion, this is an incredibly dangerous tool, like you said, 2 million lumens light.
I don't think you're wrong.
If you're right. So now the thing is, I don't want to say anything bad about it. And I'm scared to say things good about it because I'm fighting against a world where I'm trying to say, listen, I know people. I'm thinking about a guy right now. And I hope nobody could track him back to, but he was a serial relapser. Like he kept overdosing and flatlining. Like it was really bad. And he went program to program to program to program. And there was nothing we could do for the guy. And he really wanted to get better.
Who doesn't?
Ibogaine. Right? He goes to Ibogaine and he's doing better. Now,
can I just tell you the percentages of Ibogaine?
Yeah, talk to me. I know it.
One dose of Ibogaine.
Yeah.
The percentages are, one dose of Ibogaine, the percentages are 83% success in removing an addiction. 2 doses, it goes up almost to 95%.
I've heard those statistics. I don't believe them, but I will say,
I know them personally from people that we've sent. We have a spot where we send people in Mexico for Ibogaine, and I can tell you we're batting very, very, very close to that.
Okay.
Very close to that.
I will.
And I'm not saying it works for everybody, and that's not the truth.
And I will say,
of course,
that
it doesn't.
If you want to know how far back Ibogaine goes, I was sending people to Ibogaine over 20 years ago when nobody freaking knew what Ibogaine was. And I was sending people there because I was dealing with heroin addicts. I'm dealing with the real
worst
things.
of the worst.
And I wouldn't say the statistics were that good. And it always came down to what they did afterwards. Now, it always came down to that.
That's the point. That is exactly the point. Integration.
Yes.
Post-care.
Right.
Proper direction. You know what that means? That means that after you go on a mushroom trip, you have a therapist to speak to for 6 sessions over the next 6 weeks or maybe even 3 weeks, right? Integration. You need to surround yourself with people who have also been there so you can be talking about your experiences. I think you're focused on a small group of people that are within the world of ayahuasca that are ruining it for you personally, and you think that this is going to ruin it for everybody for some reason. And I think that there's infrastructure being put into place that has to be put into place. And again, I don't deal with ayahuasca because of all of your problems.
It's not just ayahuasca I'm talking about.
I'm only into. I don't see this happening with psilocybin at all. It's very, very easy to sort of corral with a professional therapist for life-changing results. Almost like, 90% success. And b'li ayin hara, I've sent hundreds of people, hundreds of people over the past 4 years or so, hundreds, and I have no idea who they've sent. Meaning, like those people. You might also have
5,000.
I don't know. I really don't know. But I meet the people who I've introduced, and they're like, "Bro, I'm on number 40 today," and there's 100 of you. So what's going on? Because it's real, it's truthful, it's MS. Of course, the sober community has to push back to make sure it doesn't become its next, the next problem for people who are trying to get, you're finally sober, and now this guy's stuck on ayahuasca with robes and smoke all day. It's a problem, but that doesn't mean this is not helping many, many people.
Right.
And that lives around the frum community have become much more spiritual. Your issue of wealth, happiness, I don't know why you're focusing on a small group of people. Like, cars are great. A bunch of people crash them every single day.
Well, I wouldn't say it's a small group.
Hammers are great. A bunch of people are hitting people in the head with them. I don't know. Ayahuasca is freaking great. There's a bunch of people hitting each other in the head with ayahuasca. They're going to do that with themselves. Like, what were those people doing beforehand? And that's always my question. What were those people busy with? Where were they? What were they doing? Right. What were they doing? I think that's a required ingredient in your calculation of, should I be confused about whether this is okay or not? This is okay. If you have proper guidance.
I want to tell you something. You're missing I don't have an issue with drugs even. I will tell you that. I don't have an issue with drugs. Someone says they're doing pot, they're doing drugs. I'm not hung up on drugs. I don't think drugs are the problem. I only think the problem of drugs is that people use it as a way to feel better, and you eventually get stuck in a world of getting lost in the sauce. That's
psychedelics doesn't do that to you naturally. It's only a misuse of psychedelics. So there's a famous mushal, super famous mushal.
Yeah.
The guy is going in the forest. He's got to it might be a Breslov mushal. He's got to get to the king. If he gets to the king, he can have whatever he wants.
Right.
Anything. He's at the edge of the forest. It's pouring. It's thundering. It's muddy. It's a forest. And all of a sudden, he doesn't know where to go. He's lost. It's so dark and scary. But all of a sudden, there's this massive Florida-style flash of lightning. You've seen Florida-style flashes of lightning?
Yeah.
If you're not from Florida, you'd
Florida,
think you're under attack.
It's a swamp.
Oh, man, is it great, Florida. It's our swamp. It's our swamp. And the guys at the forest get to the king. He could have whatever he wants, all of it. And that bolt lights it up, and for a second, he sees everything. The path. Not only does he see the path, but he sees it all. He sees the king sitting in the window waiting for him to give him everything. But then it goes black again.
Right.
But the guy knows. He saw. Now you got to do the work. Now he's got to go into the forest. He's got to cut away the weeds. He's got to go down the paths he saw. He'll get to the king, and it's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah.
People are not willing to do the work. They're willing to go on a mushroom trip. They're willing to go to an ayahuasca ceremony. Those people are not really, they're not being guided properly, right?
Yeah.
If you're going back again, and then again, this is not a monthly process.
Well, the shamans I know agree very much with me. That's
The character is taken from the head, says Churchill. Those people need to be in better control over what's going on in their domain.
there's always another guy. These guys are hopping. The guys that I know that are serving it are very legit people, and I'm very proud to
Do I know some of them?
Probably. I'm not going to use names
Right,
now,
okay.
just
Fair
because for their own reasons. But they're very serious about doing it the proper way, and I'm really happy about that. There are many people doing it the not proper way, and they're doing it as a party. Like they keep coming back and coming back.
When you say as a party, are they they're partying with it, or are they?
Oh, all different types of crazy ways, in my opinion. It turned into
partying with ayahuasca.
It's a trip, man. So I can't imagine.
These are sacred tools to get yourself together.
So the truth is, what would help this is if it was legalized, because then it could be managed. It cannot be managed illegal.
Why do you think if it's legalized, it's going to be managed? Because there will be some rules.
Yeah.
Some sense of rules. Not if it goes recreational, right? So if you could just buy a mushroom psilocybin bar in the Dowdy Deli, that's a problem.
It's not true. You can listen. There are in everything. You make a car. There are a lot of regulations of how to make a car.
Yeah.
Elon Musk keeps talking about it, and there's a ton of regulations. Right? You can't regulate something that's illegal. you can't do anything. You can't say, hey, listen, you guys could do ayahuasca, but it has to be within a certified person who has training, and you could do stuff like that. We have psychiatry, and they get to decide how they give out the medicine, but they have some sort of
psychiatrists are pill mills. Almost every single psychiatrist is only trained in prescribing pharmaceuticals.
Right.
And it is what has ruined this country. Our brains are ruined. Everything's imbalanced. They've been prescribing pharmaceutical drugs to people for decades and decades now, like purposefully. And these people who are prescribing them are not, and no offense to psychiatrists, but they're not helping anybody, right? They're not numbing, they're just numbing people all day long. Whereas these plant medicines don't do that, regulated or not. I think it's so much better.
Okay, so I'm going to go available. Off it because, holy cow, I'm going to go,
What time is it?
Hey guys, my next guy is here.
Hey.
You know each other?
No, just saying hey.
This is a super psychedelic guy right here. I don't
know, super.
Okay, we're just saying hello. What time do you the next guy, it's 2:30. Give us a couple more minutes. We're,
great to meet you.
Rami is really awesome. We're gonna.
What's your last name, Rami? Gurari. I know some Guraris. Chabad. Odd name.
Yeah.
Rabbi Shmuri Gurari. Yes, I used to work in Manhattan, so that's where I know him from. We used to hang out a little bit. Great guy.
Okay, clear off that seat, or you can walk around, whatever you want to do. So.
Okay, we have 30 minutes.
Yeah. He would probably disagree with everything I said about psychedelics. Just let you know that.
Well, you'll get into it with Sonny afterwards. I don't disagree with anything you said.
I don't think you disagreed with anything I said, and
I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
All right.
The only thing I disagree with is that there's some out of control sentiment to the psychedelic therapy world right now, and I don't look at it that way. I look at it as this is a necessary part of the journey for the whole corpus of therapy and healing and therapists and yourself to see and then improve.
Right.
And then take a little bit of control over what's going on. And those people who are abusing it sort of need to they need to be a little bit embarrassed that they're abusing what's been given to them, and they're not stopping for a minute to go, wait 1 second, this really doesn't make sense. I really need to go sit, integrate, chat with people and by the way, maybe that's something you should start instead of talking about the negative aspects of this. Form an integration group with no ayahuasca there and no psychedelics there, and the Sober House should run it. A sober integration group for those deep in ayahuasca healing, and run that and be the leader that helps control the problem. But to say there's this big problem, there's no problem. People are healing. People are happy. They're dancing a little too much every week. Yeah, I know. They're drinking it at Kiddush. This is nuts to me. I've never heard of such a thing. And quite frankly, those people should call me. Shame on those people. You are abusing a tool. It's total abuse. It's wrong. It's wrong. Kiddush is so much more special than ayahuasca. That's a whole other thing, right? We are from Yidden. We have the Torah. That is the best you can do. We have the manual to life. We are weak.
I want to get off this for a second.
I don't really want to. Okay, yeah.
It's funny because I think people listen to my podcast. They really get confused by me because it's very hard for me to not see every side. It's very hard. When I see things, I just see everything.
30,000-foot view.
Right. It's very bad with situations like October 7th and all that, where I'm immediately hearing everybody's pain, and everybody's like, "What the heck? Which side are you on?" And I'm not trying to be liberal. I just can't handle human pain. I just can't handle it, and I want everybody. And to me, fighting it all is lost in the sauce. What the heck is wrong with people that they're fighting? It doesn't make any sense.
Do you think that the world can get to a place where your feelings are the predominant approach? Because then that would be a utopia.
I think that the world is already in my way of thinking. Meaning, I don't think I've ever met anybody. And I sat down with them, had a conversation with them, and said, "Wouldn't you think the world would be better if we all just loved
Got
each
along.
other?" And I have definitely never met a Palestinian or an Arab who didn't agree with me on that ever, across the board. They do say the problem is they get lost in the sauce, like you said. And I'm going to keep using this expression.
Let's use it and make it purposeful.
Yeah,
we don't want people getting
I'm calling
lost
this podcast "Lost in the Sauce."
Let's do that.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that we then say, like, even I believe this, but if you come into my house and try to hurt my family, I'm taking out I have an AR-15, which is, it's required because I live in Muncie or in Florida, whoever you live.
We don't have an AR, but we're armed.
We got AR, and I got my wife a pink shotgun, which is very cute. And so I wanted to make sure it was a feminine shotgun. I will murder them, and hopefully I'll be all right with it. But what I'm saying is, no question, don't mess with my people. Like October 7th, I'm ready to go to war. But to me, that's not the ideal state of the world. But everybody thinks they're being attacked right now. So that's what we're doing on our internal being also. Like, yeah, I want to be peaceful, but I have anxiety right now. So I got to focus on my anxiety right now. Like, we're always doing this, but everybody agrees with me. I just want it to really happen. But everybody is like, of course I want peace. Yeah, of course you can get a couple of, I don't want peace. But if you really sat down with them and said, listen, wouldn't you like it if your family had some money and a house and this?
Yeah, that's how October 7th happened, was because the folks that were living there on the border thought that those folks thought what you just said.
Oh, I don't.
Well, that's that.
But I don't think they're not going to murder us. I think they're going to murder us because they're lost in the sauce.
You know that there's a Muslim psychedelic therapy group on Instagram. Find them. I'll send you the link.
Okay, send me the link.
I've reached out to them. Like I would like to, interact with them and understand what it's doing for their people.
Right.
Spiritually.
I'd love to bring them on the
it would be nuts. It would be such a great idea. I'll send you the link. You could reach out, but I don't think they'll come on, right? I don't think they're ready. I think that it will happen, and that the peace you want, I don't know if it happens without this outside tool. Like, my mind is fully improved from 6 years ago or so when I went on my first mushroom trip. Like, my entire thought pattern, processes, everything's improved. Like, unbelievable improvement, to the point that I started preaching like a maniac.
Yeah.
I've since calmed down. I've calmed down because I learned through my preaching that that's not the way to go about preaching. The way to go about this is to live your best life with all of your struggles and crush it every day. Whether you're up that day or horribly down that day, crush it. And that you can really only learn from, like, Hashem's gift to humanity, which is in my psychedelics. Like, tell me some other way that you can teach this to some. I don't know how, right? I mean, the psychedelics can really open up that portal for you.
Well, it's the difference between teaching and showing. And I feel like psychedelics could show you. Be like, here, just sit down and you'll see.
Right. But the point being that peace in the world and psychedelics and sort of manifesting this change from a material, conspicuous consumption to issues in the Orthodox community, I actually think this is it. This is the big chance we have through psychedelics to heal the Orthodox humanity and, actually increase spirituality in secular people for sure. I've seen many, many secular people go through psychedelics. I've seen people who are super not spiritual go through psychedelics, and then they'll tell you, this is the most spiritual experience I ever had. What do you mean? You're like an atheist. Like, what are you talking about spiritual? I can't explain it. So there is peace. There is a utopia through this. I'm just circling back for a second.
Yeah.
I don't see the big problems you see. I want to get off of it. Yeah. I don't see this massive problem you're seeing.
No, a part of me is very, very happy about your pushback. Meaning, I want you to be right. I don't want to be right about this.
My right is creating an infrastructure, and people like you who are smarter in this world than me, creating an infrastructure as well.
Right.
To have really to build a fence around it properly, and whoever wants and eventually everybody will come into the fence because that's going to be the appropriate way to do it. But sitting around and like waiting for things to happen, I never sit around and wait for things to happen. I make things happen.
Right.
I'm not. You're sitting around talking. Well, but make things. You have. I don't see the problem you see because I'm not in that community by design.
Okay.
Okay. I saw what was going on there, and I really wanted to be part of the community. I really did. I wanted to help open certain spaces, and then I started talking to people and seeing what's going on, and I'm like, this is actually. It's great helping so many people. It's not my calling. I need this. We need professionalism. We need therapists. We need infrastructure. We need a website. A mom a dad can feel comfortable logging for their kid, right? Like there's people. That's what I'm focused on only. I will speak nothing negative really about what other people are doing because if it's working for them, cool. If it's going to hurt them, they're going to have to figure it out. It's not going to become this intergenerational ayahuasca generation of messed up people. I don't believe that.
Okay. I want you to be right. I really, really
Thank
do.
you.
I want you to be right. And I want people to look at this from a little bit with my eye of going, because I'm really coming from both sides.
You're not. If you want people to, I think people need to jump in, actually. There's no right time to do psychedelics. The only right time is when you are so lost and you've been going to your therapist or you've been going to this and nothing's working. And that was my approach, crisis management. I am now believing that we need to open it up for more regular people who I think there are, very many people suffering silently.
Right.
Who do go to therapy every week, and they are doing that work, and they need something, and it's not there for them because they're uncomfortable because they're hearing what you're saying, and they're hearing what some other therapists are saying, who are scared of, rightfully so. What you're describing to me is something to be scared of, but not to like taint the whole thing and to have people scared. No, there's infrastructure. I'm not going to say it here on the podcast because I don't know if the website is up, but originally, we were operating as tickunurban.com.
Okay.
And you could go to tickunurban.com and you can have an intake form and read about ayahuasca. You can read the data. There's a link there, clinical data. It'll show you what Ibogaine does, the studies from, I think it's either Johns Hopkins or one of these really big universities that did these clinical trials. And somebody can call you who's really knowledgeable in psychedelics after you do an intake. And there's a medical intake that you have to do to pass. You can't just go do psychedelics, and if you're on SSRIs, we'll help wean you off. Right. And then you'll have a call with the therapist to learn about who you are and what issues you have. The therapist can join. If the therapist, sometimes people have a therapist, they're very comfortable with them. Most of the therapists I find are very uneducated in psychedelics. These are the kinds of things I'm focusing on in the world because of what you're bringing up. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean we sit around and talk about all of the negativity,
right?
And all the potholes.
Well,
you're going to stop
reason for the
many
podcast
people. Yeah.
is to look at everything and challenge it and figure it out, and action is the goal. So. And I am living in the world of action. This is the only time I sit down.
This is action.
Yeah, this is the only time I sit down. This is the least action I do. But
it might be the most impactful.
It might
have a really big reach.
It might.
So, what is your goal with the podcast? By the way,
the goal with the podcast is so varied. It's just interesting. Like I wish I had like a really good sentence to say and like to explain it, but. Mainly, I really wasn't liking doing lectures anymore. And I really wanted some of the ideas that are going through my head and people that I want to talk to get out there, but I wanted to do it in my basement. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something about like lecturing that really like, it's like a moment in time, and like some people get inspired, some people they walk away. But I feel like discussions and like taking an idea and ripping it to shreds with someone else who could do that with me and have like brilliant conversations. And the reason I call it Brainstorm is because it's not because I'm trying to figure everything out, although that's part of it. It's also because my brain is on fire. Like there's so many things. I'm hearing so many great things. I wanted to call it brain traffic originally, like because it was just like,
I like Brainstorm. I like Brainstorm. It's good.
Everybody hates traffic, so it's not.
Right.
Storm is way better.
Storm's way better.
Way better. Especially if you're like on a porch. Do you remember my porch in the rain? Okay.
The red porch.
I don't remember what color it was.
It was red. And you know how I know? You're talking about the porch on your front porch?
Yeah, the best porch in Far Rockaway, I think.
Hold on, let me just see. 718-327.
It's pretty close. Let's see.
718-327-5620?
No.
That's 4711?
7015.
7015?
Yeah.
7015.
I still
327.
use it on all the things, like when I like have to sign up for things. I still use my old. I don't know. Poor guy.
Far Rockaway, right? Whoever has
I
that
don't know
number.
whoever's got that number, but I use it for
Whoever
everything.
has that number.
Hey, credit card, you need your phone number. I use that number. But that's the idea. The idea was I really wanted to get out. It became like a passion project. I'm having amazing conversations. I'm not really like chasing. I'm chasing the people I think are amazing. This one was like, oh my God, you're doing cool stuff. We know each other from back in the day. How fun would it be, like, work our minds together and see what happens?
We're gonna have to do another, and I'll tell you why. because there's a lot of topics not covered.
A lot.
Psychedelics to me is obviously a big topic, but it's like my side. Meaning, I'm loud and proud about it, but I don't spend all of my day doing it yet.
Right.
A lot of the work, I'm as much passionate about us Jews moving to Israel, like ASAP, as I am about psychedelics. And I think psychedelics has a role in that as well.
Do you have an action plan for that?
Absolutely.
Could I hear it?
Yeah, I started with Hashem's help investing in real estate in Jerusalem, in a specific area. Mm-hmm. And God willing, investing more and acquiring more. But the way it started was to open a wellness center in Jerusalem. The action plan is to figure out Parnassa there.
Yes,
I love wellness. I love real estate. I love investing. And right now, unfortunately, in Israel, that's where the biggest battle is now just starting. It's just starting. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of soldiers in trauma, young people. Like our next generation, you're worried about the next generation here in Muncie dancing around in their underpants. Let me tell you, in Israel, it's a big problem.
Yeah.
And the next generation, these are our people. So that is all connected. More Jews need to move to Israel. More of all the brain power we have in America, bring it to Israel. We have crises to solve over there with psychedelics, with therapists, with business people. It's like super, super important. I'm super passionate about it. I don't think people understand like what's happening in America. It might be great for like another 3-4 years now, but this is like a runway to set ourselves up for. We Jews have been bouncing around forever. There's no reason to think it would be different now. And the technology we love so much, this is a role. It's playing a big role in that.
Right.
Anti-Semitism on social media is out of control. And it might not even be real people.
Yeah,
Bots,
I don't know.
Just bots.
I've gotten so much hate. It's fascinating.
It's lovely. Hate on social media is
well,
unreal.
it blows up the videos.
Is that what it does?
It's great.
People are commenting.
Yeah, they comment like free Palestine, you get a couple more hits. Like you get a couple of free Palestine.
For all those people that'll comment,
killing it.
let's free Palestine using psychedelic therapy.
There you go.
Because if we could do that, and there are groups, like I said, and we've had sessions with Palestinians and Jews sitting and doing psychedelics, and it's unbelievable. The love and the care for one another. But then they go back and it's like,
let's go kill each other.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Okay, so the truth is I would love, because whenever I bring up the idea of Aliyah to my wife, which was my original plan, I never planned on living in America, Parnas is brought up. So I'm really curious to see where you go.
So one of the reasons the Gemara says you don't have to live in Eretz Yisrael is for Parnasa.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting to a point where we can run businesses from Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah.
In America, you can reverse commute. You come back once a month for a week.
Well, eventually
people could
you
do
need
it.
to do it in China. From the businesses in China when they take over.
They're not taking over so fast.
They're not taking over.
They're not taking over so
It
fast.
seems like they're going down. What's going on with China?
China?
Oh my God.
China is
India's going to take over, right?
India's massively populated, but they all have third world type problems that they have still not been able to get rid of. That's why America is the superpower it is.
Right.
We don't really have these third world problems. There is really nobody hungry in America. There are poor people, very poor people. But like the median income here in America is like, for being poor, is like 100 times,
Right.
what a really poor
Nobody's
person
living
is.
on $1 a week.
No, and they are there, and they're happy. Some of the people are happy. I just had a friend, regular guy like you and me. He picked up. He went to India for 10 days. He wanted to see How are people living out there? How is it possible that people are happy in these other countries? And what he found was beautiful. And the idea is really for us, like, this is like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, all episode back to the beginning, which we started our conversations. There's a lot of wealth in our communities. Okay, there are also a lot of poor people. The wealthy people are very loud about their wealth. It makes it seem like, everybody's wealthy. Instagram doubles and triples those problems, meaning from our mindset. Like, you're seeing so much shiny things. You think that everybody's either living like that or wants to live like that. And it's just not true anymore. It's not, we have to know it's just not true. The people who are really, really happy are working really, really hard to be happy.
Right.
Like, really hard. They get up in the morning, they work hard to be happy. They work hard to put a smile on their face, smile at other people. There's this guy on Instagram who did a thing. He walks around and he said good morning to people with like a different tone. Morning. And like they would just ignore him. Morning. And then the next few people like, hey, good morning, what's doing? And they're like, hey, how are you? Your outfit looks great. Hey, and it's like, people need to start behaving like this. The wealth thing and the Instagram thing and the being cool thing has diluted our ability to know what is real reality. How are we really supposed to be behaving? We're supposed to be simple, humble, kind, thoughtful, and Talmidei Chachamim, always learning from everybody, always learning from, by the way, the people we might want to criticize, the rabbi who speaks too long, the secular friend you have who does this, that. There's so much to learn from everybody. Yeah. Social media is helping with that. Social media is unfortunately also, bringing a lot of tumah to a lot of people's minds. And then we have psychedelics, the refuah, right here. And then we have therapists like yourself, sober people, people who are running those programs, who are questioning all of this. Where is this all going? I think we're heading to an amazing utopia. Like, amazing. I think there's going to be a world peace. I think that people are starting to realize there is so much BS in the system that we really, the world's going to get there somehow. Donald Trump is somehow in there, right? Like, Putin is somehow in there on the other side. But it's happening. It's happening. And you're a part of making it happen. This podcast is a part of making it happen. I really believe it.
Well, I hope so.
I believe all of it is.
Okay, I got to stop.
You can't stop.
I have to stop, but I really want
We're not allowed to stop till 3 o'clock.
It's a lot of fun.
I think...
It's not 3 o'clock? Oh, it's not 3 o'clock?
No, we have to end. We really do have to end. Who's Avrami Garari needs to pop on.
Avrami Garari is freaking epic human being.
I never met him.
Okay, you're going to meet him right now.
Let's meet him.
All right, thank you. You're awesome. Wow.
Thank you, Sonny.
Wow.
Been a lot of fun.
Thank you for this day that I've been given. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this chance. Thank you for this chance to live.